Working together, they must create their own unique version of a famous social media bake. That's the Taste Master Junior. This Tuesday at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. Only on SABC2.
So why should I use We Buy Cars if I want to sell my vehicle?
Because We Buy Cars buys cars.
But will I get the right price?
Of course. We Buy Cars buys thousands of vehicles and knows exactly what every vehicle is worth. Their buyers deliver exceptional service and pay you immediately.
And how do I know what they'll pay for my vehicle?
It's easy. Visit webuycars.co.za or use the We Buy Cars app. Follow the simple steps and voila, you'll know your car's value in no time. We Buy Cars. Quick, easy, the best.
Reigning champions, the Citizens, fully get it that early wins in the league serves you right when pressure kicks in.
On it goes to Foden, 2-0! The master marksman, Phil Foden, you absolute beauty!
However, the Tractor Boys believe they have what it takes to prevail in the Big Boys League.
Burns again, another opportunity, it burns!
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting battle between Manchester City FC and Ipswich Town FC on Saturday 24 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag we love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport. For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
It's a Friday afternoon and a warm welcome to you. This is the National Pulse, so let's get cracking immediately with the conversations that move you. And there are many conversations that I know moves you. Yesterday, clearly, the MK party was top of the agenda in terms of the conversations that move you, or what moves the National Pulse. Well, what would it be today? I think today, one thing we can say with certainty is, as the day unfolds, right, is we cannot ignore just thinking and reflecting on the life and the death of Babita Deokaran. Remember, she was this whistleblower, took up a very, very moral high ground position regarding allegations of corruption in Gauteng, and she paid the price for it. She was killed, she was assassinated, she was removed, she was gunned down, she was eliminated. So we'll talk about that, and maybe just here's the thing. I know I've been doing this all week, and I like how the responses we're getting here. One word, give me one word that best describes Babita to you, that best describes Babita Deokaran to you, in terms of when you internalize her life and what she's done. What do you think? What sort of image and emotion do you conjure up? So one word, just one word that best describes her to you. You can WhatsApp us. That's the best way. Just a quick text message, 0614 104 107. You can call into voice notes on that same number, but as well to call in to speak to me live. It's 086 000 2032. And as always, you know that you can connect on the various social media platforms, Twitter or the X platform, as well as on Facebook, and add your thoughts. And from the many others who every day will send pictures of wherever you may be, driving around the country or sitting at home, doing work, sitting on the beach, listening to SFM, well, thumbs up to you. So how about you sending me that picture so we can see exactly what it is that you are considering, right? Okay, and what you feel. Let's start then with the issue of just that, the third anniversary of Babita Deokaran and her death, right? We have with us Zona Morton, who is a human rights defender and whistleblower. Appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you for having me, Ashraf.
Much appreciated, right? Okay, what we want to do first things first is play a clip, right, that was done earlier on this morning on Elvis Presley's show. And I think what was said in that clip is particularly telling in terms of what we're going to talk about next.
This is an international thing now. And I want to say today that we are very grateful as the family to the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, Active Citizens Movement, and Alta and the Whistleblowers House and numerous other organizations that are remembering and honoring Babita on this day. And you know what? Recently I was on a chat group, and I featured also in a conference that was held overseas, Blueprint for Free Speech, where there were 8 different countries that were represented, and they spoke about whistleblowers internationally. So I think, as a family, we are in support of all whistleblowers in the country and their families as well. We feel for the whistleblowers, and we feel for the ongoing trauma and challenges that they and their families face at this moment, just for the sake of being noble and, being able to expose fraud and corruption in the country. So as a family, we are supportive of the ongoing efforts that are made to protect and to help whistleblowers and their families as well.
And that comment was from the pastor of the family who was a guest on the Elvis Preslin show this morning, right? Okay, let's get then back to, fundamentally what's come out of that and what we want to talk about right away. So, Zona, thanks for joining us once again, right? Now, here's the fundamental issue to you, right? In the light of all the things we talk about and reflecting on 3 years of the death anniversary of Babita Deokaran, has government done enough to provide protection for individuals like Babita who blow the whistle on corruption and corruption activities?
Ashraf, government has done absolutely nothing to protect whistleblowers, even in the past 3 years, where they've made multiple promises. Instead, we have crime intelligence monitoring us and tracking our locations, and we're persecuted as whistleblowers on a daily basis.
Why do you think they've not done enough? Like, it would seem like the most obvious thing in the world to do to ensure that whistleblowers play a key role in stamping out corruption. Why would they turn the blind eye?
I also think the corrupt relationship with politicians and blowing the whistle and just opening up that can of worms is going to touch their pockets. We're in 30 years into democracy, and it shouldn't be necessary for whistleblowers to relocate overseas in order to secure their safety and those of their families.
And that's the case with Ethel Williams, right? I mean, that's one example, yeah?
Well, it's not only Ethel Williams. We have Rushanda Pascoe that's had to relocate overseas for her own safety in terms of blowing whistle on gang bosses.
I mean, it is an absolute tragedy because, you see, here's the thing. I mean, today you're going to get civil rights movements, human rights movements who are going to gather around, and then family, of course, of Babita, and they have memorials and understand there are many services all throughout the day. And then what? Fundamentally nothing changes. So what then? I mean, have you had any signals or signs from government, from the presidency all the way down, that these loopholes these loopholes where we have now whistleblowers who are insecure will be plugged? I mean, do you have any sense that the commitment is there and the practical application of the commitment is there?
There's absolutely no urgency to protect whistleblowers and even the protection of witnesses. Just Tuesday, a 17-year-old witness in a very, very important high-profile case was assassinated.
How?
It's tragic. It's an absolute travesty of justice if we think that we have a group of honest citizens that is trying to create a more safe and get this corruption out of the country. But we have absolutely no protection.
What sort of message then does that send out to? I mean, you're the whistleblower yourself, right? What does that send out to someone like yourself?
We all have different challenges. Unfortunately for me, I'm privileged to have the means to move around. So in that respect, I have companies and organizations that look after me, but all whistleblowers don't have access to private organizations taking care of them. At the end of the day, to download such antivirus and stuff on your phone to protect crime intelligence from actually intercepting phone calls and intercepting messages and hacking into emails, that's the absolute reality that I want to make sure that the listeners understand this. It's a scary, scary environment to be able to work in. When you sleep at night and you hear a strange sound, you're up, you check the alarms, you check that there's no movement, check there's no vehicles. It's an absolute nightmare to live like this.
Maybe just for so that we understand your situation better, because when we understand yours, we understand others too, right? Share your story. I mean, what happened to you when you chose to whistleblow? I mean, give us that story. What happened first and what happened next?
The first thing that happened, I had vehicles, Mercedes-Benz Vitos, parked outside my house. When I move, I would have another vehicle following me. So much so that my premises was entered into when I was not there. So at the end of the day, I really can't give too much information regarding my safety, because I will just compromise myself further if I give too much information.
Okay.
But so we found a different way in which to get the evidence that we've discovered out to the correct channels. And as you know, the South African Police Service can also not be trusted. But we found some trusted members that we're able to engage with.
And therefore, can I say your life changed?
My life changed, absolutely. Fortunately, I'm over 60, so it's easier for me in terms of my family. My daughter's out of the house and married. But one has to move knowing there might be a shadow behind you. It's very similar to the Shalkaniya matter. Not much in the 4 years has happened to get the person that assassinated him. And even the police officers that are implicated in the IPIT report are being protected. The criminals are being protected and not the whistleblowers as such.
So therefore, if someone comes to you and because they know what you've done, they're like, I am aware of this issue and it's a big issue. It's not a 100 Rand issue. It's like a million or a billion Rand issue. And I think I need to do what I've been called to do and be this honest citizen, and I need to report it. But I'm very scared what may happen next, because it obviously will become a public affair. What then advice would you give them?
Normally what I do, I absorb that information. I have a large group of people that have grown to trust me. So I have to then find a way to get that information to the relevant officials who I know will then deal with it effectively.
Is not being a whistleblower an option? Not for you, but for others.
No.
You've done it. Would you say, would you talk someone out of it?
No, I would never talk somebody out of it. I would guide them as to getting involved with a proper, vetted, accredited organization that's known for assisting whistleblowers. But we must understand that organizations don't have the funds and the means to protect us, but they do have the means to protect the information. We often, my phone can be hacked and my phone can be taken, but the information is in my head. So to take my phone and to take my paperwork is not an option. To get rid of the information I know, they will have to kill me.
So, going forward, because it's not even a delicate balance. It's this conflict between, it's a tug of war between criminals, and you have government who should be holding the middle ground of a tug of war, holding that flag, and then you have the whistleblower on the other side, or let's say police or other form of protection services, right? In the absence of effective control, would you say, therefore, that no matter what we talk about regarding corruption, that corruption will never be weeded out if we are unable to manage the issues of protection of whistleblowers on the one hand, but also ensure that the conviction rates are much higher than what they are right now?
No, absolutely. And there is something called the witness protection where witnesses can go into. But that's also been infiltrated and compromised. Information is leaked either via the investigating officers that has taken a bribe, or somebody else in the office of where the investigating officer works, where information is leaked as to the whereabouts of this witness or whistleblower.
Is anything working regarding this issue? Is there anything that you can tell us to say, hold it, Ashraf, I've been critical, but actually this is what we're getting right? If
a whistleblower can get themselves into a environment where they can safeguard themselves by putting in either armed response or personal guards. It works, but everybody doesn't have access to that kind of funding. It's expensive. It's expensive to have more than 3 phones. It's expensive to change your location every 3 months when it's compromised. There's no ways of securing your IP address if you're using a laptop or a cell phone where you're sending emails from. There's no ways besides getting Israeli software on your phone. Your location can be compromised at any time.
Mm-hmm. So, as we conclude, just your final message to whistleblowers, to government, security services, as well as to those who are corrupt. I mean, just maybe one final message in 30 seconds.
Yes, thank you. I would like to give a message to those who are involving themselves in corrupt activities, that they might think that they have all the crime intelligence officers in their pocket, all the South African police force and officials in their pocket. But even if one stands, we stand together, and we will root out the corruption, even if it takes another 30 years.
And maybe that's where we will leave it. The key word for me is we will root out the corruption. Zona Morton, it's really been a privilege talking to you. It's been sad reflecting on your plight and so many other people, but it is a conversation that we've had to have had as a way of highlighting the sacrifices of Babita Deokaran and many, many other people, and what needs to happen next to build our country into the country that we all desire to live in. Thank you for your time.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy birthday. Happy
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
By the way, let me just tell you that, every Friday we have this 1 hour, well, slightly less than an hour if you exclude the news and sport feature where we have a fireside chat with an individual. So in the last few weeks we've had Lorenzo Davids, then we've had Dr. Mampela Rampele, and then last week we had Dr. Alan Busak. And today it's Felicia Mabusa Subtle, coming up from 5 to 6 p.m. Do not miss that. I'll look at your comments regarding the conversation we've just had. And in fact, I'm asking you as well this question. As a vote line, you can do it right away. Do you think government has done enough? So here's it. On the 3rd anniversary of the hit that killed Babita Deokaran, do you think government has done enough to provide protection to anti-corruption whistleblowers? Just answer yes, or do you think no? Now, you can do it in a few ways. You can answer me on my Twitter feed. I've tweeted it out, so just check it out. Ashraf Garda will get SFM Radio to share as well as post on their own platform as well. So combination. But you can WhatsApp us right away. 0614 104 107. Yes or no regarding that. So let's move on to another development as part of our daily Global Watch feature. Venezuela's Supreme Court has declared President Nicolas Maduro as the country's legitimate winner of last month's general elections. And this, you may remember, many in the opposition, including, I think it was USA, who spoke about widespread fraud, voter fraud, and did not choose to recognize the election results. So what does this mean for the country? What does this mean for Maduro's administration? And what's the next question to come out of Venezuela? Carlos Fio is Venezuela's ambassador to South Africa. Ambassador Fio, appreciate your time. Good chatting to you once again on the National Pulse.
Hello, good afternoon. Thank you for this contact and allowing me express what is happening in Venezuela now.
Okay, when we chatted before, I think we spoke about just the issue that some other countries are saying and opposition parties are saying it was not a free and fair election. So therefore, now that you have the result, what do you feel about it?
Yes. It's because of that the Supreme Tribunal of Justice of Venezuela was in charge now in its electoral chamber to solve this situation, and yesterday, as you well said, yesterday they finally take the pronouncement. They pronounced, and they said that the bulletins that the National Electoral Commission that has released 1 week ago are valid, and so citizen Nicolás Maduro Moros is elected as President of the Republic for the period 2025 to 2031. So the Supreme Tribunal of Justice of Venezuela has validated the elections and the results that the National Electoral Commission has released.
So what do you feel about then the widespread accusations that come from opposition as well as from the USA? So it's been verified that it's free and fair, but you also know there's opposition, mainly from countries as well. What do you feel about that?
Yes, the opposition didn't recognize neither the pronouncement of the Supreme Tribunal of Justice, and neither do the government of the United States. But what can I say? Is the reality that we are facing in Venezuela. The elections and the voters decide who is going to be president, not another government, as U.S. government. And it's not the first time, as I told you before, it's not the first time in any presidential elections that we have made the last 25 years, the candidate of the opposition, as well as the the U.S. government, hasn't recognized the results in an electoral system that has shown this very strong and confident.
How do we move forward? When I say we, Venezuela as a country, because it still remains, it may be free and fair, but it remains divided, and you certainly want to be a president of a country that everybody rallies around. How does Venezuela move forward now?
We keep working, and the president, one of the first announced he has said is to establish once again a platform of national dialogue to calm a little these oppositions. But we know that the opposition are going to still not recognizing Nicolás Maduro, and we know also the relations with the U.S. government is going to be difficult.
What then are the biggest challenges facing the country right now?
But in our side, we are going to continue to grow. The last 2 years, because we are under sanctions, U.S. government sanctions, like 6 years, from 6 years to now. And we are also facing a blockade that has been very affected the economy of the country. But last 2 years we began to have an economic growth, an important economic growth that has changed the face of the country for the well-being of the people. And we are going to work with that. We are going to strengthen our partnerships in the international field with other allies as Russia, China, Iran, also countries of Africa. We are going to continue to strengthen ties with the Global South also. And we're going to continue to work and to develop our country. So the popular democracy or the people's democracy where we have in Venezuela is going to still work, to still walk.
Okay, I hear it'll still work, but I'm also concerned, therefore, just from your side, that when you have major countries like, say, the USA, who effectively publicly discount that election, what impact does that have on not just trade relations with USA and Venezuela, but certainly Venezuela's ability to do business and to coexist with other countries?
It's true. It's difficult. It's not something we want to. But we have to face that, and we have to go further. With the sanctions already, they impact enormously. They affect the oil industry, that is our main industry in the country. As you know, we have the major oil reserves in the world. So it affects the economy, it affects the people. But we have like 6 years working with these sanctions. So we now know how to do with these sanctions, how to deal with these sanctions.
Okay.
And as I told you, we are now in a growing period of the economy.
All right. Plan one obviously would be no sanctions, but that's another conversation in terms of what happens next. Ambassador Carlos Fio, thank you for your time. Much appreciated. There we are.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Talking to us at the time, and now we have confirmation that regarding that election, which has been disregarded and discounted by some political opposition parties within Venezuela, and also by the USA, we now know that it's been accepted as free and fair. What do you make of that, and where does Venezuela fit in next? Let's get the news headlines now. It's 3:30. Years Madupi.
Thank you very much, Ashraf, and a very good afternoon. In your headlines, our Deputy Electricity and Energy Minister Samantha Graham says that there is a positive outlook in terms of electricity provision. Police in the Eastern Cape have launched an extortion hotline number in Mthatha. And Britain's development minister says tens of thousands of refugees from South Sudan are facing a desperate situation after fleeing the country. I'll be back with the full news update at 4.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the N3 northbound in Bedfordview is slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Kiluli's interchange. Eskempachleli Drive northbound in Pretoria has delays towards Moot Street in Midrand, Old Johannesburg Road. That's roadworks reported with traffic restrictions between Olifantsfontein Road and Samrand Road. And Allendale Road westbound has delays towards Mastiff Road. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, and the N2 southbound in Isipingo has a crash reported before Joyner Road. In Cape Town, the N7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound is slow moving at Voortrekker Road. The N1 outbound has a crash reported before the Okavango Road exit. All lanes are open. The M3 southbound slow moving towards Rhodes Drive, the M5 northbound slow moving towards Kuburg interchange, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
So, to me, you are not wearing your Orlando Pirates top, but Keys, our producer, is, and Pirates are playing tonight.
And it's not about the club, it's just about being South African. And they're in action today, Orlando Pirates, and they'll be continuing in their CAF Champions League campaign when they host CS Disciples at Orlando Stadium tonight. Any win for the Sea Robbers will seal their progress to the second preliminary round of the Continental Club competition. And Pirates coach Jose Rivero says that he's not even thinking about another possible elimination at this stage of the competition. Just added that they don't need to win by a big margin to advance to the next stage.
We are ready to make it possible that we go in through the next round. We are preparing ourselves to win the match. We don't need to win the game 10-0. We just need to win the game. We are prepared. We play home. We're confident. We know much more about the opponent than 1 week ago. We are a bunch of coaches and players extremely optimistic about each and every game, and tomorrow we're going to try to offer a good game to our fans and make sure that we are in the next round.
Meanwhile, Pirates captain Innocent Maila says that it's a little bit unfair to compare the current group of players to the team that went all the way to the CAF Confederations Cup final 2 years ago. He says that this current group of players want to write their own history.
The final that you were speaking about, most of those players are no longer here now with us. So I think regarding this competition, it's a new group, new experiences for most of us, for most of the players. So it's an opportunity for us to grow within the competition and approach the competition with a lot of humility. But yeah, we're looking forward to compete with the best in the continent and test ourselves. That is where the club deserve to be. That is where we want to be as players, very ambitious, and be in that space for as long as possible.
Well, kickoff is at 7:30. Then Cape Town City have continued their buying spree and added left back Nzikele Longonga to their squad, confirming his arrival just days before the MTN 8 semi-final clash with Orlando Pirates. The 22-year-old joins after being out of contract following the sale of Morocco Swallows to Maruma Gallants at the end of last season. Longonga has been training with the squad for several weeks, but City only made his arrival official today. Then Manchester City has officially announced the return of Ilkay Gundogan from Barcelona. Gundogan says that he returned to the best club in the world after re-signing for City. The 33-year-old's return is on time after the departure of Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid. Moving on to cricket news, Proteas white ball coach Rob Walters is backing his bowlers to do the job when they take on the West Indies in the 3-match T20 series, which gets underway tonight at 9 p.m. It is the second T20 series for the Proteas in the West Indies in 3 months after they battled it out against the host in a 3-game series before the T20 World Cup got underway back in May. In that series, the Proteas' main struggle was taking early wickets, which allowed the Windies to amass big totals, which they defended, but Walter believes that they have more than enough firepower to curb that this time around. Meanwhile, Sri Lanka will host New Zealand for a 2-match test series during their next month's presidential election. The first test will begin on the 18th of September, but there will be a rest day on the 21st of September when voting is set to take place. The final match will also be played from the 26th of September, and New Zealand's last tour of Sri Lanka was back in August 2019 when they drew a 2-match test series with the hosts. Moving on to rugby. Newly capped Springbok wing Edwil van der Merwe says that inclusivity and representation in the current world champions team have played a big role in the All Blacks supporting dwindling in the country. Van der Merwe says that winning and representation have everything to do with how the whole nation backs the team.
I think, yeah, you touched on it there. I think the reason probably people support the Springboks, number one, is they're winning games. But secondly, there's representation. There's someone in the team that looks like you, Just thinking back to my own personal Springbok heroes, Peyton Paulse. When I was little, I was obviously like, this guy looks like me. So I think representation in the Springbok team is quite important. And obviously he was a smaller winger, much like myself, but very fast, someone who's exciting to watch. So I think subconsciously I've modeled a lot of my game around him. And even if you look back to how we celebrated tries with his backflips and flick flacks, I think that's something, I can't do a backflip, but I certainly celebrate after a try, which I think is something that I subconsciously got from Peyton Paulse.
Finally, in cycling, cyclist Matthew Richardson has dismissed criticism of his switch of alliance from Australia to Britain as meaningless words and says that he has ample support to make up for the negativity. England-born Richardson, who won the medals for Australia at the Paris Velodrome, announced the switch on Monday, saying that he looked forward to chasing a dream with the powerful British cycling team. The 25-year-old's defection disappointed governing body Oz Cycling and triggered some criticism from former cyclists in Australia, but Richardson says that he was not bothered by it. With that said, it is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
So just help us understand this, Pirates. So where are they in this Champions League qualification? What do they need to do and what must they avoid?
So they need to go advance to the next round. Currently it's in the second preliminary round of the CAF Champions League. A draw, especially with goals, will see them out. So they need to win.
So a draw means they're knocked out?
A draw with goals. A
goalless draw means they have a lifeline.
Yes, there's a lifeline, but a draw with goals mean that they're out and they can win with whatever margin. Then they move on to the next round. Okay.
We shall see. And you're confident?
I'm confident.
With a smile.
Patriotically
confident. Well, there you are. Let's leave it at that. We'll have more sports in an hour's time, right?
I'm Michelle Constant. Join the JSB crew and I every Saturday and Sunday morning between 7 and 10 a.m. We promise to keep you informed and entertained with innovation, culture, cars, travel, life learnings, environment, and of course, your big fat juicy. Small stories, big ideas, massive inspiration. The Jet Set Breakfast on SAFM.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
All right, we're going to, in fact, by the way, we're going to talk to Patrick Bond very shortly, reflecting on 1 year of the BRICS Summit 2023. That's last year. That was hosted by South Africa. 1 year later, what are your thoughts around the impact of BRICS in this country and beyond? Let's get some thoughts from you. I've asked you one word to describe the legacy of Babita Deokaran. Here's one.
Afternoon, Ashraf. My one word, betrayed by the system, the government.
Okay, betrayed. That's such a powerful one word. Here's another.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. My name is Elfas Ngoboye in KwaZulu-Natal. One word to describe the late Deokaran is patriot. A person who loved and protected her country. Anyway, enjoy your afternoon, Ashraf.
And you enjoy your afternoon. Thank you for that. Well, there you are. I think they're linked, betrayed and patriot, all in one sentence. Isn't that amazing?
Regarding the whistleblowers, the government hasn't done anything that guarantees the safety of the whistleblowers. So the government hasn't done anything. On my side, it's a no.
Government has done nothing. Of course, I've asked that question: has government done enough to protect whistleblowers? And I've asked you to give a yes, no. You can do that right away, as you've just heard, but you can also tweet it out on the vote line, the tweet line, on my Twitter feed, and we'll share that via SFM Radio as well. By the way, we'll chat, link to that. We'll chat to Jeff Wicks, remember, from News 24. He has said a lot around investigations around the death and what's happened further of Babita Deokaran. So we'll talk to him. Looking forward to that conversation. Right, I think there's more. There's a couple more comments I've got. Ashraf, yesterday afternoon, I was travelling from Muldersdrift to Krugersdorp, the taxi rank that is. There was a security guard holding a rifle moving around in a taxi rank. We are no longer safe these days. The taxi industry people must respect us as a society, from Brian Mabaya. So why would the security guard be moving around in a taxi rank with a, did you say, not just a gun, but a rifle, right? There's a couple of people saying, where can I send you some information? Maybe just WhatsApp us right away. That's probably the easiest way to get to you. By the way, did you see the president and an attempt to put shade on the president? Now, I mean it very differently. He's wearing shades. He's looking very different. Some may say Ramaphosa is looking very, very cool. And we know why. Because Tumi was asking me about it, like, well, here's the thought. Remember, he's got this eye infection. That's why I couldn't do some interviews that you do, even with the SABC. So he's had an eye infection, and clearly, I'm not saying what it is, but, when you have pink eyes, for example, that's what you would do, right? But there could be other things that he's had a problem with. But he looks very, very different. Some may say rather flashy, a very different image of President Ramaphosa. In fact, what I'll do is I'll get Remy Vusani to tweet it out. I certainly will post it on my Twitter line. Check it out. See what you think about it. We'll talk to Patrick Bond about the BRICS after this.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Right, so yesterday marked exactly a year since South Africa hosted the 15th annual BRICS Summit, right? And then remember, in October, it'll be Russia's turn because they rotated amongst the original 5 members, or 4+1, every year. How that changes for the future, we shall see what happens, since a lot of other countries have now joined in, right? We thought about this. Let's talk about some of the issues that were raised at the BRICS Summit of last year, and what has happened to, say, South Africa's standing and the overall BRICS standing with regard to the rest of the world since then. So just a point of note there, at the last year's event, I was the MC, I was the program director on the opening day. Just so you know, I was certainly part of I can't make decisions, but I certainly can introduce people at the BRICS Summit, just so that you know that. Prof. Patrick Bond certainly has opinions on it. He's a distinguished professor of sociology at the University of Joburg. Patrick Bond, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us, Prof.
Oh, it's great to be back with you, Ashraf. Hi to the listeners.
Much appreciated. So we've given you this responsibility of reflecting on what happened amongst the key takeouts of the BRICS Summit last year, and what has happened, to the world since then, to South Africa and the others.
Well, the very first thing is that only 4 of the leaders were there because Vladimir Putin was under an arrest warrant, and it's the same warrant that Benjamin Netanyahu and some of his colleagues have been put under, that is war crimes, and in Putin's case, 20,000 Ukrainian kids who were taken away. Now, that meant that Sergei Lavrov, his foreign minister, came, but that was one of the, let's say, tumultuous moments of establishing whether an international system, in this case ICC, the International Criminal Court, which had until recently been considered a Western tool, would intimidate South Africa and in a sense create a constitutional crisis. And it was when Ramaphosa asked Putin not to come when he visited in that ultimately unsuccessful peace mission that we then saw 4, not 5 leaders. But what they did, most importantly, was to expand, and they've chosen now 4 new, 1 probably joining, and another invited but then rejected. So the 4 are definitely in Iran, which has been probably the single most anti-Western government since about 1980. And secondly, Egypt and Saudi Arabia and UAE. Saudi Arabia not quite in, but those 3 are very much U.S. allies, especially in supporting Israel de facto, and that's in the military sense when Iran is on April 13 sending missiles. Well, those 3 are supporting Israel against Iran, so contradictions. And then another country was invited, and that was Argentina, and because they had a right-wing government come in December, they said no. And the final one, which is in Ethiopia. And then the other major question was whether they would move the de-dollarization agenda. They failed to do so.
So let's talk about the de-dollarization first. I mean, so yes, there was an intent, and there's been lots of talk that it will be implemented. I mean, where do you think, where are we regarding that? And perhaps as you answer that, like, how significant would that be if it ever was pulled off?
It would be fantastic. I think anyone who's looking at the world financial system understands how irrational it was. Although South Africa, back in 1944, had about half the world's gold underneath our Johannesburg rocks, and then the other half was in a place called Fort Knox in Kentucky. So the deal, called the Bretton Woods Agreement, really served those who held gold. And there were just 2 of the countries, I'm exaggerating just slightly. And so the US and South Africa set this system that put the dollar at the center by fixing the price, $35 per ounce of gold. Now, Richard Nixon, the then president in 1971 in the US, broke that deal, and the gold price has been zany. It's very high at the moment. And the dollar went way down, but then the interest rates went way up in 1979. That threw South Africa into a debt crisis. And the fact that the interest rates went up, that's the Paul Volcker shock. He was the Federal Reserve. It sort of shows you the first stage of those Federal Reserve powers. That's the central bank, like our Reserve Bank. And what they can do is manipulate the interest rate. Then we saw them do it again. Ashraf, you remember, 2008, 9, 10, they put the interest rate very low, but they also started printing dollars. They did it again during the COVID crisis, 2020. Now, those monetary manipulations, which always benefit the U.S. I mean, there's just so much power in that Federal Reserve. I happened to work in the Fed, let me disclose, for a couple of years, so I saw it firsthand. And those powers are what we need to avoid to, in a sense, allow so much, let's say, parasitical capability in the U.S. Fed, and then it makes deals with the British Central Bank, the European, and the Japanese, and that's why we have the so-called quantitative easing. They just print money, and that means the poorer countries are subject to those sorts of whims, and that can mean high interest rates starting in 2022, which shot the world interest rate up and then created debt crises all over Africa, including for the 3 African countries. That is, South Africa, we have a very substantial foreign debt, 165 billion, but Egypt and Ethiopia especially are in a massive debt crisis. All 3 of us are in IMF clutches, if you will. And that's another disappointment, because we wanted a de-dollarization that would allow multipolarism in finance and to have an alternative to the IMF, the contingent reserve arrangement. It's never appeared. That's one of the durable disappointments. And even in Kazan, when Vladimir Putin hosts this in October 22 to 24, I don't expect any change, unfortunately.
Now, what came out of the BRICS summit at that time, if not officially, certainly in terms of intent, was to create this parallel universe, parallel to the existing world order, which, as you would know, it would be dominated by the USA and its own allies. I mean, are we anywhere close to that? And if so, I mean, does that really matter much?
Oh, it would matter, but it's like on de-dollarization, Ashraf, I would call it talk left, walk right. In other words, there's a lot of chatter about how unipolar and especially U.S. power, especially over multilateral institutions. I mentioned the IMF, which is squeezing us, right? And it's really squeezing Ethiopia this week. They chopped their currency by 30% in value. Egypt, since March, has been squeezed. So you definitely need the BRICS to offer some countervailing power. BRICS New Development Bank, for example, we have a Stanton branch of it that would be different. It's not, and unfortunately the BRICS delegates in the IMF, in the World Bank, in the World Trade Organization, with the exception of South Africa and India. Remember, they fought against the vaccine apartheid by trying to get intellectual property waived on those vaccines for COVID. Well, we failed, and partly, Russia had Sputnik, and Chinese had Sinovac and Sinopharm. It wasn't in their interest to question the big global power structure. So there's a great deal of talk about a multipolar alternative to this unipolar activity. But when you look at the big corporates and all these countries, Western, the BRICS, they really do benefit from the same system. So I don't think they're anti-imperialist, Ashraf. I think they're sub-imperialist.
All right. What about, and just very quickly as we get on to, we're getting to a break, so just a quick answer here. What's the one thing you would want to look for the next big summit coming up in Russia soon?
Well, the Russian summit is already a disappointment because they've announced that even though 40 other countries want to join, they've put a pause on that. I don't understand quite what their dynamics are, but they need to digest the other 5. And I mean, as I say, Ashraf, when Ethiopia goes bankrupt, when Egypt turns to the IMF, it means that this BRICS New Development Bank, there's no contingent reserve arrangement. Their alternatives are not much, right? They haven't put a new credit rating agency into effect. And when we look for a new currency, for example, the Indians are importing massive amounts of energy from the Russians, but that means there's too many Russian, let's say, rubles that can't be retrieved.
Okay, let's leave it at that. Thanks for that, Patrick Bond. Appreciate your time. Thank you.
Catch the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday evening at 7 on SABC2 as the top 8 take on a new challenge. This week, they delve into the world of social media and learn what it takes for a recipe video to go viral online. Working together, they must create their own unique version of a famous social media bake. That's the Tastemaster Junior this Tuesday at 7, repeat Wednesdays at 1 and Sundays at 4 p.m. only on SABC2.
Hey Mike, congratulations on your retirement.
Thanks, Andile. Are you preparing for it?
Yes, but not just for myself.
For you and?
For me and my employees.
Oh.
Since we moved to Old Mutual Corporate, their retirement funds have not only been safe and secure, but gaining competitive returns through exposure to diverse investment markets.
Impressive.
Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Borussia Dortmund understands the delight that comes with triumphing the opening clash of the league race. But Eintracht Frankfurt are not about dropping points this early. They want to complete their visit to Signal Iduna Park with 3 incredible points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the hot contest between Borussia Dortmund and Eintracht Frankfurt on Saturday, 24 August at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. #We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
All right, let's get to some of the voice notes. So, by the way, so did you check out, we must tweet out the picture of the president wearing his shades. Looks very, very different. Did I say cool? Now, let me get someone else to say that. Right, let's just pick up one of the comments on the whistleblowers.
Good afternoon, Ashraf. Our government of today is not doing enough to protect whistleblowers. But they are aware that whistleblowing is one of the most effective tool to combat corruption and criminal activities, but they are doing nothing to enforce a law that protect whistleblowers. Whistleblowers are killed left and right and center. The government turned the blind eye. So this Limpopo.
It's interesting. I mean, that many people believe the government turned a blind eye, which really does not impress many people at all. Whichever way the government looks at it, they've got to fix that, because there's a perception, and that's based on fact to a large degree, that just far too much with regard to crime and whistleblowing and different sorts, violent crime as well, just it's allowed to continue unhindered, and that has got to change. Let's talk about, so we're in the midst of Women's Month. We still have another a week or so to go around that, and there are many initiatives around that. One of the key issues around Women's Month, besides being aspirational and empowering, has got to be the issues of gender-based violence, and that's because so many people have died and been killed, women that is, and primarily around the issues of gender-based violence. So let's find out more about it with Tobeka Sangana, who's the managing director of the UNN Imgatwana. Let me get that right, Impetrana Foundation. Appreciate your time, Tobeka. Thanks for joining us.
Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
Good afternoon.
So, the case that we refer to in terms of the foundation that you head up, I think is a critically important one, right?
Yeah.
How, now it's ongoing, because, the issues happened around the murder, happened, 5 years ago now, right?
Yes.
How do you use Women's Month to create the awareness, but the awareness mainly around preventative, as opposed to simply reflecting and sympathizing and say, this must not happen again?
Yeah. So what we are trying to do as the Uyinene Mrwetyana Foundation is to really call upon not just the government, but call upon civic organizations, call upon the communities to stand against gender-based violence and femicide, but to also identify what are the key issues that need to be addressed, right? Because we can't just raise awareness around GBV. One of the things that we identified as a foundation, which is around this theme, we saw being reported by women and female students in higher education, was the fear. The fear of just walking on the street by yourself, and we came up with this idea that perhaps we need to call upon the elimination of fear, and that means prioritizing safety and security of our young girls, women, and everyone that feels unsafe is very important.
And then, do you get a sense that the needle is shifting? Because for the good work that you do, the fact that we've had to lose a life in terms of UNN, there's just many examples of, honestly, this issue just recurs every single day. Do you get a sense that something's shifting?
Well, you know what? It's really difficult to see if anything is shifting when we are, bombarded with the threats of, women dying every single day. But we have seen the strides in terms of the government responding, even though it's taking a bit longer for them to make decisions, especially at a strategic level and a policy level. But we've seen the implementation of, new laws being, changed to accommodate and to respond to what people on the ground, on the civic organizations are saying when it comes to just the response of the legal side of things when it comes to perpetrators, So we are seeing that, but I really want to say that the government is really moving very slow when it comes to the issue of GBV in South Africa.
So when the government is moving very slow, and we could say ditto for whistleblowing, and we've discussed it earlier on, how then do you reassure people that, we fight, we mobilize, we say this must not happen again, not in our name, and then it continues?
I think it's important for us to not lose heart, to continue to push, for change. That is to continue to do the work on the ground, but to continue to address and I guess to engage the government, until there are policies that are being implemented, that are being changed for the betterment of the next generation. I think it's also important for us to understand that we might not see change right now, but the work that is being done on the ground is also for the next generation, so that they don't live in a context or situation like this. So it's very important for us to be able to see the future.
And then just lastly, as we get on to news time, what's the position regarding the family of UNN in terms of, their lives change forever, right?
Yes, the family's life changed forever. And I think this is also a part of the healing for the family, where they remember their daughter and remember what she stood up for. But also it is opening up spaces for other young girls, especially in higher education. We're still partnering with the UCT, and we are providing space for female students to come and participate and have their voices heard. So we'll listen to what they would like us to carry as the message when we do the work of GBV.
Well, I think the issue of mass mobilization around it, of saying this can't happen, is important. Yep. Is there anything else that you got a walk coming up? Just tell us about it very quickly.
So we are going to be walking from the I think it's Darling Street in Cape Town to Parliament. And we will be partnering with, as you said, with the Makazole Mampipi Foundation. The UCT is also behind us, Langa for Men as well. What we are wanting to highlight this year is that we are seeing men responding and wanting to participate in the work against GBV. And we've seen quite a good response with men wanting to actually be on the ground and make sure that we are creating a safer South Africa for everyone.
And I think that Makazole and Pimpi collaboration is just absolutely fabulous. That Springbok player. Appreciate your time, Rebecca Msengana, the managing director of the UNN Mkhitaryan Foundation. They were, reflecting on it 5 years later. Goodness, man, so much you can say nothing's changed. Let's get the news now with Mujupi.
Thanks, Ashraf. The top stories: Deputy Minister speaks on energy provision and extortion hotline number launched in Mthatha. A very good afternoon. Deputy Electricity and Energy Minister Samantha Graham says there is a positive outlook in terms of electricity provision. She spoke during a meeting of Parliament's Portfolio Committee with her ministry and the Mineral Resources Department. Graham provided an update on the Integrated Energy Plan and the Integrated Resource Plan. The plans have gone through the process of public consultation and will be taken back to Cabinet with any changes. Graham says the country's energy system has been radically transformed.
On a very positive note, on Saturday we will have had 150 days of no load shedding. So that's quite an achievement when you think that this RIP was developed in the midst of the worst load shedding that we've had ever. So it certainly will have changed a lot of the assumptions that are going into it.
Mineral Resources says that the interventions in the Integrated Resource Plan are already bearing fruit. The department's Sonwabo Damba says the first intervention was to stabilize the power plants.
The efforts to intensify and improve Eskom plant performance was intervention one, because that would be the easiest thing to do. Okay, and we've seen now how this has borne fruits. We are more than 100+ days without load shedding. This is exactly what has happened, right? It means the NECOM and all government plans to turn Eskom plant performance around have borne fruits, and we hope that it will continue being like that going forward.
Police in the Eastern Cape have launched an extortion hotline number in Mthatha. The initiative is one of the attempts to gather information and gauge the magnitude of the problem of protection fees in the province. Provincial Commissioner Nomthetele Limene encourages the public to use the hotline number.
For the 2021-2022 financial year, there were 6 cases of extortion that were reported. For the last financial year, 2023-2024, there were 14 cases reported. Now, one can see that numbers are increasing, but that the figures are not what we hear and what the public out there is feeling. And I want to ensure anyone who feels threatened to talk to the local police that what we are arranging today is that these cases be reported at the provincial headquarters.
Tshwane Mayor Celias Brink has assured residents that there will be no more missed bin pickups in the area following the interventions they've implemented. Registered and signed contractors need trucks that are not older than 9 years, along with the e-NATIS documentation, and they must be fitted with tracking devices. Brink conducted an inspection at the Pretoria West Waste Depot to ensure that workers comply with the new regulations.
This is a way of making sure that we don't miss any cycle of bin lifting, because what's become clear is that many places we have illegal dumping because those performance contractors or those waste contractors in the past did not perform. And then what a household does is they see the municipality skipped a week of bin lifting and they go and dump on the corner.
And Britain's Development Minister Annelies Stardzer says tens of thousands of refugees from South Sudan are facing a desperate situation after fleeing the country. She visited a camp in Bentiu where 100,000 people are facing acute hunger, having been marooned by floodwaters. Stardzer also emphasized the significance of holding credible elections in South Sudan.
I was very clear when I met with government ministers in South Sudan that there has to be free and fair elections. Now, there are important preconditions for those elections to be free and fair, which the government has to deliver on. That includes, for example, having a unified armed forces. It includes having the correct institutions in place as well to have a free election.
The top story this hour, Deputy Electricity and Energy Minister Samantha Graham says there is a positive outlook in terms of electricity provision. For SAFM News, Kimudupi Makhaleme.
In sports this hour, 4 Comrades board members resign and Norris fastest in the first Dutch Grand Prix practice. More details at 4:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in Bromfontein is slow moving towards Car Street. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Kiluli's interchange. Main Reef Road westbound in Industria has a crash reported at Avon Street and that's causing some delays. And the N1 northbound in Midrand slow moving towards New Road exit. In KZN, the N2 southbound queuing towards Spaghetti Junction, the N2 southbound in Isipingo is queuing towards Joyner Road, the N3 eastbound queuing towards Ashburton, and Umgeni Road westbound is slow moving through Springfield Park. In Cape Town, the M3 northbound queuing at Paradise Road, the N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange, the N7 Jakes Havel Drive southbound is slow moving at Voortrekker Road, and the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound is slow moving towards Hospital Bend. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 30th of August 2024 at the SABC in Bloemfontein. The University of the Free State will take on the Central University of Technology in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za.
SAFM, leading the conversations that move us.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Did I tell you that we're going to chat to Felicia Mabusa Suttle as part of our Friday fireside chat Well, if I didn't, now you certainly know. Listen out for that coming up after 5 o'clock, right? I've also asked a question regarding the vote, whether, and here's the one. What's the one word to describe the legacy of the late whistleblower Babita Deokaran? Just give me one word to describe her legacy and what comes out of it for you. You can WhatsApp us right away, 0614 104 107. You can also post it on social media. Many people doing that on the SFM Radio Twitter feed or X feed, as well as on mine, right? And with that in mind, earlier on, so we're going to chat pretty shortly, by the way, to Jeff Wicks, the News 24 investigative journalist, right? However, earlier on, we chatted to, regarding to the same issue, we chatted to Zona Morton, who's a human rights defender and whistleblower. And she made some specific pronouncements regarding the issue of whistleblowing and government, right? And we thought we'd just play some of it back. One, commenting about the government role to protect whistleblowers.
Government has done absolutely nothing to protect whistleblowers. Even in the past 3 years, where they've made multiple promises. Instead, we have crime intelligence monitoring us and tracking our locations, and we persecuted as whistleblowers on a daily basis.
Right, that's the one thing. And then I asked her about her own position in her life, and this is what she said.
My life changed absolutely. Fortunately, I'm over 60. So it's easier for me in terms of my family. My daughter's out of the house and married. But one has to move knowing there might be a shadow behind you. It's very similar to the Shalkaniya matter. I mean, not much in the 4 years has happened to get the person that assassinated him. And even the police officers that are implicated in the IPIT report are being protected. The criminals are being protected and not the whistleblowers as such.
All right, so that's just some of the thoughts, and we'll chat to Jeff Wicks. In fact, we're going to chat to him pretty shortly, slight delay in terms of when we're going to talk to him. You, by the way, also can vote on this issue. On this, the third anniversary of this hit that killed Babita Deokaran. Do you think government has done enough to provide protection to anti-corruption whistleblowers? I mean, seriously, give it some attention. You can vote a yes or you can vote a no. I've certainly tweeted it out, so you can do that on the social media Twitter platform. I can tell you now 93% at this point in time are saying no. You can WhatsApp us as well, so we can cover that live here on the show, 0614 104 107. By the way, while we're talking about WhatsApp, we've got this the National Pulse WhatsApp channel. Would you like to be part of this channel, a new innovative way of just giving you alerts and podcasts of all the things we do right down to your WhatsApp? Would you like that? Just WhatsApp us and ask us to add you in, and Vusani will certainly do that. Let's get some thoughts on some of the issues it got, including the issue of whistleblowers. Samuel in Joburg, hi.
Yes?
Yeah, good. Go ahead, Samuel, hi.
Yes, it's Samuel, yes, Mr. Ashraf.
Yes.
Can I ask you a question?
Go ahead.
Yes, like now I hear people are complaining that the government are not protecting whistleblowers.
Yeah.
But I don't know how you're gonna protect them. It will be like bodyguards, and their houses must be guarded. They must have what you call this grand cars like politicians. How are they gonna be protected?
I don't think it's grand cars. I just think it needs, especially at the high level situation where their lives are at stake. It does need security. It's not grand cars. It does need security, and they have to be rerouted elsewhere. It would need that as well. It's really sad because if we don't protect the whistleblowers, you're not going to get whistleblowers. If you don't get whistleblowers, you get continued corruption. And I don't mean 50 rand corruption. I'm talking about on a grand scale. That has got to change because it's undermined our entire country. Samuel, I hope you got that. Thanks for that. But maybe it's another conversation that you've raised that maybe we'll ask it even further. When we talk about protecting whistleblowers, what is the ideal protection for whistleblowers? I mean, just let's think about this. So we say whistleblowers need protection. Really, what sort of protection do they need? What is ideal? What works? What is insufficient? What is over the top? What gets into their spaces, and how do the whistleblowers self-protect? I mean, for example, do you as the guest we had earlier, Zona Morton, said you have three phones. Do you change schools, your children? Do you change jobs regularly? Do you change home? Do you change cities? Do you change countries? Like, what is an adequate protection for a whistleblower? The stakes are incredibly high. It's clear The stakes are so high. I have to wonder. I have to choose my words carefully. You must wonder what exactly would be the mind of a whistleblower before they begin to whistle blow. Yes, further thoughts on that.
Ashraf, you know, the fate of the whistleblowers is going to be bad as long as the ANC is in charge. All these crooks are going to protect their doings. So, unless all the liberation movement are taken down, we start anew. Then we will have a law enforcement and we will have accountability from the state. JJ Stakes Bridge.
Okay, got that, JJ. You linking the issues of corruption to the ANC government. Is it as straightforward as that? I don't know, actually.
Good afternoon, Ashraf, and good afternoon to SFM listeners. Ashraf, Minister Tlavisa must not undermine our intelligence. Now, because he's preoccupied with blue lights, he dismisses us when we express issues. Well, this is a clear reflection that never trust politicians. But come local government election, these GNU partners will see flames. Thanks very much. This is Tapelo in Zanen.
Right, thanks for that, Chapelo. Let's get to Katu in Midrain. Hi, Katu.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good indeed. Go ahead, Katu.
Good. Sorry, man, I'm drunk. Now, one of the things you must think about is the template for contract killing in South Africa has been perfect. It's one way to silence most whistleblowers, witnesses. We've seen so many videos where witnesses are shot point blank. So when it comes to whistleblowing, you can never be protected. I think the lady earlier spoke about crime intelligence keeping tabs on people. So everybody's scared they're going to be killed and you leave your family. At the end of the day, is it worth it just because you wanted corruption to stop?
You mean, well, what do you think? Is it not worth it?
I don't think it's worth leaving your family. And the way the narrative in South Africa is that government will not protect you, the killers will kill you. They will find you and they will kill you. We saw it with Babita. We've seen it with so many people. Let me put it this way. I don't think there's corruption in South Africa. South Africa is corrupt in so many ways, and we need to find ways to deal with it. But for me, the whistleblowing, definitely, I would never do it. I would never risk it, regardless of what's going on and how much I know. That's just my
all right. Well, thank you for that comment. But now we know, right, Katu? Thanks for that. Lorraine in Durban, go ahead. You're live.
Good afternoon. Yes, I am. How are you?
I'm very good indeed. Right, go ahead. What's your point?
One word to describe Babita, and that's not halfway enough. For me, is dedicated. She was a servant of the people. She was educated enough and really engrossed in her job to spill the beans at risk. She must have known that. And we need to salute her and give her all the credit that she deserves, and blessings to her family. Thank you. Bye.
I think you're right. I mean, the only way you can do it is by honoring her on a level that you would honor a champion of democracy, a champion to fight against corruption, and to put her on the pedestal that we often put politicians on. That's all. We can't do more than that. You can't bring her back to life. Her family's lives have changed forever. So what more can we do but to remember the role that she played in doing exactly what she did? So I think you're spot on, Lorraine. Thanks for that. Let's get another one. Janus in Cape Town. Hi, Janus.
Hi, Ashraf. Listen, it's very difficult to change the lion, to be a vegetarian. The same is going to be very difficult to change the ANC to not be corrupted. And as long as they are in the power and they're going to be corrupted, they always will try to protect those who are on their side, of course, and try to stop the whistleblower to be involved with what they're doing. But also, I would like to ask you, because I'm a little bit disappointed. We had an interview with the guy from the Venezuelan ambassador,
yeah.
And actually he was talking about talking nonsense to me, because the court in Venezuela decided that actually election was threat. It's the same like court in China and court in Russia and court in Cuba decided that what they doing, that the government, it's a proper one. We know about what happened to Navalny, what happened to Chinese people who were killed and murdered, and this was with the approval of the court. And he was telling us that last 2 years actually there was the improvement of the life of Venezuelans. I'm disappointed that you didn't ask him, because if you go to the statistics, the thousands and thousands of Venezuelans and Cubans are trying to go to USA for the jobs, and they mustn't talk rubbish to us.
Okay, got that. I mean, your point made, and maybe I should have. On the other hand, we often have different perspectives of that, and it's possible we may do another perspective on that sometime soon. So, point noted. Absolutely. Janus, thank you for that. All right. Right. We will get, there's more comments, more commentary. Wandisile in Mtata, hi.
Hi, how's it, Ashraf?
Yeah, very good. Good talking to you. Go ahead.
I'm good, man. Quick one, Ashraf. You know, we grew up in a location. So we've seen this happen before, right? And you guys, a lot of people are only being shocked that it's all in the news because this lady was a well-known lady. This happens all the time, man. When people snitch, people get taken out. So my issue is that the government is not really doing enough for whistleblowers. So I don't know if it's worth it to come forward, because at the end of the day, it happens to people that are well-known. Think about how is this going to happen to Luna. I'm not well-known, and that lady was well-known.
I don't know if she was. I don't think she was very well-known. I mean, I don't think so.
If you think about it, look at the position that she was holding. Obviously, she's an educated woman. She's holding an high position, so obviously people do know her. If you understand what I'm trying to say.
How many people knew Babita beforehand, besides people that worked with her? I don't know, but I mean, I take your point, and the broader point is that there are many cases like this where there are hits, there are contract killing hits to eliminate people who stand in the way of them avoiding justice, that continues unabated in the country, and it's just normal, and it's sad. I mean, and that normal cannot be right. So I hear you. Thank you for that. Right? Okay, we're going to talk about. So we spoke about Jeff Weeks earlier. We'll chat to him, I think, just in about 10 minutes or so. We will, however, reflect on some of the goings on regarding the United States. The build up to the election. You know, the Democratic National Convention has been going on all of the last few days. We'll get a response from Laura Fink about that after this.
SA Women Struggles Journal. #Women's Month. Celebrating 30 years of democracy towards women's development. SAFM celebrates the power, resilience and brilliance of women. It's Women's Month, and we honoring the incredible contributions of women in our communities, our workplaces and our homes. Join SAFM in recognizing the achievements, strengths and spirit of women everywhere. Let's uplift and empower each other today and every day. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Certainly having the conversations that move us, and you can join in on those conversations. Felicia Mabusa Suttle will chat to us from the USA coming up after 5 as part of our Friday Fireside Chat, so looking forward to that. Do join in for that. But staying with matters in the USA, the Democratic National Convention concluded its business last night. So this is obviously in the build-up to the election coming up in November, right? So let's consider what has happened over the last few days, and some of the biggest issues is can Kamala Harris defeat Donald Trump? That's really the essence of the fact that Joe Biden, who is the incumbent president, is not the Democratic candidate. Okay, so let's find out more about what's happened, some of the key findings and reflections on the Democratic National Convention with Laura Fink, who is a Democratic strategist, CEO, and the founder of I think it's Rebel Communications. You better tell us, Laura. Appreciate your time.
Good to be here. It's Rebel Communications.
Okay, thought so. It sounded that way, right? Rebel, right? Okay, so without being rebellious about whatever, let's reflect some of the key takeouts for you. coming out of this next convention?
You know, this was really about unity of country and a future, and sort of going away from looking at the past, as everyone said in the arena every night, turning the page and moving on. You know, there's a lot of dissatisfaction, no matter your political ideology, with the rancor and the discord that have been integrated into American politics since Donald Trump came to the stage in 2016. And so this was a repudiation of that over 4 days, ending with nominee Vice President Kamala Harris working toward a better future, a bolder vision for America, one that was more patriotic and more civil. And so that was the theme, with this at the heart of it, centering the American people. Kamala Harris for the people. The word "we" was used throughout the convention. There was a diversity of people on stage, not just in terms of background, but in terms of party affiliation. Republicans on stage every night. And so you could see that move toward unity was the primary goal, and an invitation for voters who perhaps had not considered voting for a Democrat before to come to the table and to join.
Let's then talk about Kamala Harris and how she came across in what really would be effectively a shop window to the electorate to vote for not just Democrats, but potentially anybody, right?
That's a great way to put it. This was an introduction because although she's been the vice president for 4 years and has served one of the statewide in one of the largest states in the union, the largest state in the union, she's not well known in depth. People know her name, but they don't know her story. And so she was able to talk about how she was a little girl from Oakland, California, with two immigrant parents who grew up raised by family and raised by neighbors, and really how she came to becoming a prosecutor, the Attorney General of California, holding corporations accountable, and then her path to the White House, working internationally as a diplomat and the vice president to Joe Biden. So she was able to tell that personal story, talk about her values, and really talk about what she will do for the American people moving forward. So a really powerful anchor speech last night that she gave with precision. And keep in mind, people were looking and asking themselves this question: is this someone who is presidential? Is this someone who has gravitas? Is this someone who I can trust to lead my country?
Okay, so what, therefore, I don't expect you to give us a whole synopsis of the speech, but I mean, some key bullet points. What did she say and what did she not say?
Well, she talked a lot about the middle class. She says, I come from a middle class family, and my goal is to build the middle class in America. And so when she talked about policy, she talked about costs of living, which is central to Americans' concerns right now: the cost of housing, the cost of groceries, the cost of healthcare. And so she talked about working on lowering those costs and empowering workers, and that was central. Also central was protecting Americans' basic freedoms, from reproductive health care to protections from gun violence, and really drawing a contrast on those issues and protecting people's human rights as well. And really drawing a contrast with her opponent, Donald Trump, on those issues, what he plans to do in terms of, being in office and really taking down those freedoms, and what she will do to protect and advance them.
And how important was that to play up the growing of the middle class, keeping in mind, every pronouncement you make tends to bring in support but alienates others to it, or there's the potential to do so?
Well, the criticism, it's a great point. The criticism that she's been receiving is, give me more detail. And, they say you campaign in poetry, govern in prose. She has controlled the conversation during this very short, historically short campaign. And she is right now campaigning on ideas and on certain specific plans, but she wants to romance the American people. She wants to persuade them, get them connected and believing in the possibility before she rolls out, a long, detailed plan. And so that's in contrast to what is traditional in a much longer campaign. So her critics are not faulting her for her plans. They are questioning, whether or not they're detailed enough. And from a tactical perspective, that's a good conversation to be having.
She also touched on the Middle East. What did she say?
Well, this was a very tricky issue, as you might imagine, because there is a bit of division within the Democratic Party with many supporters of human rights in Palestine and also strong supporters of Israel as a state. And then, of course, the overall goal of ensuring that there's peace and security in the broader region. So she took that issue head on in her speech, talking about support for Israel, the Israeli people, support to bring the hostages home. And she also talked about the devastation that the Palestinians have experienced as they sought food and shelter and the difficulties they face. And she committed to preserving their self-determination and to ensuring that they receive the aid and protection that is so desperately needed.
And how did that go down with a divided audience?
Well, there were some protests in the audience. You couldn't hear them on television, but there was reporting afterward. I think this will continue to be an issue, particularly in swing states like Michigan, and it's something she will have to continue to work on both behind the scenes and in front of the microphone. A very difficult issue. Obviously, navigating the situation in the Middle East is a global concern and one with no easy answers.
Perhaps as we get to news time, so maybe the last thing here, fundamentally what we're doing is that, as we spoke about this, the shop window that we referred to, right? Ultimately, is she doing enough to convince the American people that she should be the next president?
Well, as a professional looking at what you can control, she has done an expert job. And I think her ascendant rise is evidence of that. Her rise in the polls, her fundraising, her volunteers, and the Kamala fever that is sweeping the nation is all a momentum builder, and you can see even the unraveling of Donald Trump in terms of his demeanor and his choices and his actions over the last several weeks show that it is impacting him. So, of course, we remain a very divided nation. This will be a remarkably close election, but in terms of executing on the things that she can control, she and her team have given us a master class in how to execute message and communication.
And maybe the next point is, how does she control what she can't control? Don't answer that, because I don't have an answer to that either. Not for now, anyway. Maybe some other time. Laura Fink, thank you for your time. Democratic strategist, CEO and founder of Rebel Communications. Right, what do you make of that in terms of where does the USA, where does the vote go to in the USA? Let's get the news headlines now. Here's Mudupi.
Thank you, Ashraf, and good afternoon. In your headlines, the SABC board says the public broadcaster is on a positive trajectory. The Deputy Electricity Minister, Samantha Graham, says there is a positive outlook in terms of electricity provision, and the UN has expressed concern about reports of paramilitary forces mobilizing in the Libyan capital, Tripoli. Details coming up with Greg, 5 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Bayes-Naudé Drive westbound in Northcliffe is slow-moving near Alice Street. The N1 northbound in Midrand, slow-moving towards Samrand Road. In Pretoria, Eskimo Drive northbound has delays towards Moot Street, and the N1 northbound has a truck crash reported after the Sefako Makata Drive exit. In KZN, the N2 southbound slow-moving towards Spaghetti Junction. The N3 westbound has a crash reported before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange. The N2 southbound in Isipingo is queuing towards Joyner Road, and the N3 eastbound in Pinetown, slow-moving at Marion Hill Toll Plaza. In Cape Town, Main Road is slow-moving in the Lakeside area. Kuburg Road northbound in Tableview, slow-moving towards Brauberg Road. In Brackenfell, Okavango Road northbound is slow-moving at the N1 highway, and Brackenfell Boulevard is slow-moving at the N1 highway. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
To me, what's it? End of the race for some Comrades Marathon, runners? No, officials.
Board members, to be exact.
Okay.
Well, the Comrades Marathon Association have confirmed that 4 board members have resigned. In a statement, the CMA said that Chairperson Gondisi Singobo and Deputy Leslie Bernard, Cohen Bresson and Pumlan Duli resigned with immediate effect. Jeff Minar has been appointed as interim chairperson, while Peter Proctor will serve as interim vice chairperson. Now, in terms of these resignation, it reportedly comes after one board member was banned for life, and also allegations of racism and vote rigging, which led to race director Anne Ashworth stepping down in June, which is quite unfortunate because I could see just the change that Anne came with, just talking to female athletes and just making it inclusive as a whole. But we'll definitely keep you up to date with this developing story. Then Proteas women's young wicketkeeper batter Karabo Meso says that her G Sport 19 nomination serves as an inspiration to all young athletes who look up to her. The 16-year-old has been nominated in the School Sports Star of the Year category alongside South African youth rower Danielle Price-Hughes and Mamelodi Sundowns lady swinger Katlego Malebana. Now, Meso made headlines when she made her debut for the senior women's national team in the T20 series against Sri Lanka in March, and she says that she's quite grateful for the recognition from South Africa's leading women in sport platform.
Being recognized by the G Sports and all around the world as a cricket youngest athlete, I think it also means a lot. Like I said, like being the youngest in this generation, it's all about hard work, and also want to inspire the other like youngsters like me out there to keep pushing in which sports they're playing. Yeah.
In football, Arsenal manager Mikel Arteta says that he will open talks about a new contract with the club once the transfer window has closed. Arteta's current contract expires at the end of the season, but talks are not expected to be a problem, and the 42-year-old has a good relationship with the club's hierarchy. The Spaniard has been Arsenal manager since 2019 and has led the team to second place finishes in the last two Premier League seasons, and the big question is, will he be able to win the title with his side for a change this season? On to rugby. Speedster Cornel Skosan returns for Western Province to face the Sharks 15 in round 8 of the Currie Cup at Cape Town Stadium tomorrow. Skosan, who last played in the North-South Derby clash against the Bulls in July, is one of the 9 changes to the starting lineup that lost to the Lions in Johannesburg last week. The 12 test Springbok slots in the right wing for JC Mars, who shifts to fullback this week. Angelo Davids retains the number 11 jumper to complete an exciting back three. Outside centre, Luke Berger will link up with junior Springbok star Joshua Bull in a new look midfield, while fly half Yuri Mati and scrum half De Vault continues their half-back partnership. In the meantime, Tyrone Green says that he hasn't heard anything from coach Rassie Erasmus, but he will definitely continue to push for a place with the talented Springbok team. Since joining Harlequins from the Lions back in 2020, Green has been one of the Premiership's most consistently lethal attacking players. The 26-year-old played an influential role in the Queen's Premiership title win in 2021 and has scored 25 tries in 77 games during his time in London. Then finally, in motorsport, Britain's Lando Norris was the fastest in the first practice session of the Dutch Grand Prix today. Norris finished a lap in 1 minute 12.322 seconds. Verstappen was just 0.201 seconds behind him, with Mercedes Lewis Hamilton third, a further 0.483 seconds behind the Dutchman. On that note, is a wrap from my side for now. I'll have more in the next hour.
And what do you said, I mean, in terms of the impact that it would have on the comrades, it's difficult to say, I understand that, but what do you make of it?
It's quite sad that there's these things that are happening behind the scenes, but with some of the reports coming through relating to racism, vote rigging, it's very disappointing that we're still dealing with that at board level. However, one of the board members was just saying, listen, the past few weeks have been taking a toll on us, and I just want to sit and enjoy my time with my family.
And how many board members have resigned?
4.
So the fact that 4, it's like an en masse, basically saying, okay, we're walking away.
Yeah.
And that puts a challenge on the comrades in terms of continuity and what they do next. So it's like an interim comrades. Yeah. Okay. Let's see. Maybe they'll nominate someone we know. I don't know who. But anyway, we shall see. Let's get the Minister of Sport involved in this. I'm sure he will before we know it. Probably check out his tweets. He's probably going to have something to say about it. Thanks for that, Tumi.
Catch me, Bonang Mateba, on a fresh reality series that showcases the business behind being a business. Get to experience an intimate look at my life with family, personal growth, and my mission to uplift young women. Jet with me as we prepare to crown a lucky chaser. Be grounded, be entertained, and be dazzled. Monday, 6 p.m. on S3, it's a date with you and B. Catch Bedazzled by Bonang on S3 every Monday at 6 p.m.
Welcome to the team, Andile.
Thank you.
What will be your first order of business?
Well, ensuring our greatest assets are taken care of.
Our vehicle fleet?
No, our employees. You see, I want them to feel confident in our company's employee benefits, and Old Mutual Corporate is perfect for that. They take care of everything, from retirement benefits to health and group risk solutions, consulting, and more. Visit oldmutual.co.za/employee benefits and go from questions to solutions for your employees with Old Mutual Corporate. Old Mutual Life Assurance Company SA Limited is a licensed FSP and life insurer. T's and C's apply.
Borussia Dortmund understands the delight that comes with triumphing the opening clash of the league race. But Eintracht Frankfurt are not about dropping points this early. They want to complete their visit to Signal Iduna Park with 3 incredible points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the hot contest between Borussia Dortmund and Eintracht Frankfurt on Saturday, 24 August at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, last day of the week. Let's look at the numbers with Paswani Mpatlele. Paswani is the Senior Accounts Manager at Makwe Fund Managers. Okay, big numbers. Tell us, local and global.
Afternoon, Ashraf, and to our listeners. Well, the U.S. Fed Chair Jerome Powell, in his Jackson Hole speech, basically has given the indication to the market that the rate cuts are coming, although he didn't give us the quantity, but the market is optimistic around a 50 basis points cut. We see the bond yields have declined, and this sentiment has helped global markets rally very high, supportive of risk assets. Investor sentiment is also optimistic around the Nvidia earnings. That is the next big risk event coming up next week. And with the dollar down, oil prices rebounded by 1.6% at $78.50 a barrel, while the gold price was up 1% on those rate cuts at 2,511. General equities are up. In the US are percent across the board. DAX is up 0.6, CAC up 0.5, the FTSE up 0.2. Back here locally, we are up 1% thanks to financials up 2.3, industrials 1%. Although our resource sector was down 1.7, the rand was stronger on this sentiment and weaker dollar. Rand against the dollar is at 17.81, rand against the euro 19.86, and rand against the pound 23 rands and 86 cents.
Okay, that's it. Well, you have a great weekend. I'm sure you will.
You too.
Paswani Mpatlele, thank you for that. Right. Okay, we'll, let me tell you, Felicia Mabusa-Suttle coming up as the Fireside Chat guest after 5. Do not miss that. Before that, it's Jeff Wicks.
X at SAFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
So I've asked you to comment on a range of issues. Bring the calls. Let's hear what you have to say. 086 000 2032. And I think central to that is the fact that today being 3 years since hitmen pumped 12 bullets into Babita Deokaran. That's after, she herself effectively has been this whistleblower to big issues around corruption, around tenders awarded to the Tembisa Hospital. So give me your thoughts in terms of where does South Africa go from here? How do you honor someone who's passed on, who's been a whistleblower, who was effectively eliminated, assassinated, wiped out, besides having an annual memorial and maybe some form of focus on her own career and her obvious sacrifices. The other one is about you is like WhatsApp us just with one word that you'd like to use that best describes her legacy, and you can WhatsApp us that 0614 104 107 in a voice note or as well as text form. I'll try and take it as soon as possible. Don't forget you can also join us on you can join us on the National Pulse WhatsApp channel. Okay, you just have to WhatsApp and request to be put onto the channel. Okay, let's then talk to Jeff Wicks, who's a News 24 investigative journalist. Jeff, appreciate your time. Thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for having me, Ashraf.
Thank you. Now, the issue of Babita is pretty well known, and I've just prefaced that earlier on about, her role with regards to whistleblowing around, corrupt tenders awarded to a hospital, a Tembisa hospital, right? The big question is, she's passed away. There's lots of celebration, if I can say that, in terms of her legacy and remarkable legacy and willingness to stand up for what is clearly right against what is wrong. Beyond that, the actual issues around what she was whistleblowing on, what has happened to that?
Well, I think that's set upon two pillars. I think your preface is correct that the name Babita Deokaran has become synonymous with both whistleblowing and with ethical civil service. And in terms of what's happened since then, there's an investigation into her murder, and then there's a corruption investigation, which was started by what she found. The murder investigation, unfortunately, has progressed to a point where nothing new has happened. 6 trigger men were arrested 3 days after the killing last year. They were sentenced to various prison terms in terms of a plea and sentencing agreement, but the police appeared no closer to tracing and arresting and then prosecuting the men or the man or men who ordered the hit and who paid for it. And that is key when we talk about accountability here, because everyone understands that in terms of targeted killings, Izinkabi or triggermen are disposable, and very seldom do we have police investigations that progress to the fullest extent possible and take the whole value chain down. And that's what we've seen in the Babita Deokaran's case. So for her family, it's certainly partial justice. There's more work to be done in that respect.
Well, there certainly is. And what has happened regarding, just to recap again, what was the issue in the first place? That means, what is the issue? What were the monies involved? How much are we talking about here?
Well, she had flagged 850 million rands worth of possibly fraudulent transactions. 3 weeks later, she was assassinated. News 24 investigations took up the cudgels on her behalf, and we exposed syndicate activity operating from Tembisa Hospital linked to powerful politically connected individuals. And the SIU then, under a presidential proclamation, has now investigated. And in terms of what she had found, it's been dwarfed by the scope of their investigation. They place the loss figure between 2.3 and 3 billion rand and several thousand individual transactions. So it appears to us that she had stumbled on the first shades of this extraction syndicate, which had been deeply rooted, and had it not been for her, would likely still be operating at that hospital.
Okay, so that answers half the question. They're not operating any longer, but how much do we know about this syndicate, in inverted commas?
Well, there's 3 syndicates, in fact. There's many syndicates that were operating at that hospital, and Tembisa Hospital was essentially turned into a contract factory. Fake companies that existed only on paper, all formed on the same day, controlled by the same people. We're just seeing millions of rands pumped into their bank accounts under the auspices of supplying medical goods and services, which we don't believe ever happened. And Babita stumbled upon this payment anomaly in the books and reported her concerns and was later killed. We've spent 2 years investigating what she initially found, and we fleshed it out into more than 35 individual stories where we've set out how all of these players that command these syndicates have splurged on lavish properties, 85 million rand and up, sports cars, surgeries, you name it. The excess is all there. And she had found the first indicators of that, but unfortunately was killed before anything could be done about it.
So let's then go back to the issue that we spoke about earlier, which is in terms of investigation to trial to convictions. What else can you tell us around it? Because I'm glad that you guys have picked up the cudgels on this issue.
So, the SIU is working hand in glove with the Hawks on a corruption investigation. Obviously, the SIU doesn't arrest, they reclaim money. Judging by what they've been saying today, their case is at an advanced stage, and it's a highly complex investigation. The Hawks would obviously act on criminal referrals from the SIU investigation and then hopefully prosecute. When that happens, your guess is as good as mine. But the real issue here is justice for the Deokaran family and justice for Babita Deokaran. And ultimately, 6 triggermen is not enough. The investigation, from what we found during the course of our work, was mishandled, and there was a series of missteps where crucial evidence was ignored, which is of course problematic. And it may be a case of an incapacitated and under-resourced Hawks trying their best, but we know that they've made mistakes, and there's certainly more work to be done in trying to find out who ordered the hit.
And what for you would be justice for Babita?
Justice for Babita would be anyone who unduly benefited from Tembisa Hospital corruption, including the person who paid 6 hitmen to assassinate her wearing orange overalls.
Just the last thing, we chatted to Zona Morton earlier, who's a human rights defender and a whistleblower in her own right. And I mean, she was very clear that in answer to the question, has the government done enough to provide protection for individuals? Well, whistleblowers' answer is like, no. And there's just nothing to suggest that that's going to change soon. What can you tell us about that in terms of your broader investigations into the life, the times, and the tribulations of whistleblowers?
No, I would agree wholeheartedly. I think there's a legislative hole in the way whistleblowers are protected in the South African context. There are legislative reforms in the works, but as with anything in government, it takes an incredibly long time. And the unfortunate reality is that the Babita Deokaran's murder would definitely have had a chilling effect on other whistleblowers who were contemplating standing up and doing the right thing and standing against corruption, because they know they don't have protection. So why would you sacrifice your life when you understand that is exactly what will happen to you? And the likelihood of people being brought to book for the killing is increasingly unlikely as well.
And that's something we've raised as well, a big concern. Just lastly, what for you is the one big sign you're looking for now?
The one big sign I'm looking for now?
Yeah, you're looking out for now.
Well, we're looking out for action on the part of the SIU and on the part of the Hawks. And we hope, and I say this with every ounce of sincerity that I can muster, is that there's action soon, because I believe society needs to see results. Babita Deokaran has become a household name, and this cannot become a cold case.
Absolutely. We've had far too many of those, and we know that. Jeff Wicks, News 24's investigative journalist, appreciate your time, and long may your role in highlighting these issues continue. So thank you for that, right? Further comments on the Babita case, the Babita Deokaran case, and just some of the conversations we've had today, because we felt it's so important. And I know other shows have done this, but we must highlight this issue. So what for you are the biggest takeouts to emerge, not just from what you've heard, but what happens next, both from an SIU point of view and the Hawks, but also in terms of the protection of the whistleblower? You don't have a whistleblower, well, you know what? You don't have justice. That's the starting point, isn't it? We'll talk about another important issue that will have a huge impact on your pension, maybe after this.
From 1936 to the future, from Ekhaya, Ekas, to Jozi and Welcome to the world. From dance and poetry to stages filled with our hopes and dreams. From SABC radio stations to cross-border triumphs. From drama, comedy and heart-pounding sport to raise our flag. From culture and spirit to the streets where talent is grown. From generation to generations and the shows that kept us entertained. So, what are you waiting for? Kumbule Ekhaya. SABC has always been home to our joy, stories, and Msanti's magic. Come home to SABC Plus, still home to the best of who we are.
Every day our children are exposed to relentless marketing of unhealthy foods where they live, learn and play. This aggressive marketing of unhealthy foods to children can shape their eating habits and food preferences for the rest of their lives. I'm your host, Crystal Audison. Is Big Food stalking our children? Watch Chew on This on healer.org.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
So this is an issue we have been speaking about before, and that relates to, government employees, pension funds, and this concept of a two-pot system in terms of retirement savings and what that really means. So different people have different ideas. So the plus factor for many others is like, hold it, you can take some money now that you need urgently instead of waiting much later when you may be far too old because your needs are imminent and you have to address it right now. So different people, different thoughts. Maya Fisher-French, who's a personal finance journalist and the author of Money Questions, certainly has an opinion. We thought let's put it to her. Maya, appreciate your time. Hi.
Hi, good afternoon.
Good afternoon indeed, right. So let's talk, first of all, what is your understanding of this two-pot retirement savings pot? What's your understanding of it, firstly?
I think my overall impression or understanding of it is a move by government to try and improve the retirement outcomes for South Africans. Because sadly, when people change jobs in South Africa, they don't leave their money to grow. They generally cash it in. And you go and change your job 3-4 times during your career, you get to retirement with, a couple of 100,000. It's not going to see you through. So governments realized they really needed to do something to introduce some form of preservation so that when people are changing jobs, they don't keep cashing it in. But they also recognize that people sometimes need access to some of these funds before they retire due to some major event. Something happens and they really need access to it. So this is what they've introduced. They've said that 2/3 of your contributions will be kept for retirement. You will never be able to touch them until retirement to ensure that when you get to your older years, you have something there. But 1/3, if you really have a crisis, if you really need this money, it is available. It is not, please, I want to make people understand, it is not an encouragement to take the money. It is simply saying that we recognize people may have a life event before retirement.
So although it's not an encouragement, does it also reflect a reality that many people can't wait? They really can't wait. They need the money now. Never mind, I heard what you said about the implications thereof with too many early withdrawals.
Look, I think I see it every day. I deal with consumers every day, and people are under immense pressure, immense financial pressure. But what I also see is huge debt levels. And some of that debt is due to life events, but some of the debt is consumption debt. And I think South Africans have lived beyond their means for a while, rightly or wrongly, no judgment, but there has been this debt take-up, and I think debt has been very easily handed out with very high interest rates, and the consequences of those are really coming home now. And people would love to access this pension and use it to pay off their debt and to move forward. And I think a lot of people are going to be very surprised to discover that it's not going to be that much money that they're going to get out on the 1st of September. So, and I think that's going to be part of the challenge.
So I understand you've put together a 4-part educational series on this. It's that important, on this 2-pot retirement system. Therefore, what then is your advice?
My advice is to, as much as possible, leave your money. Do not draw it. That's my advice. But if you are you may about to default on a debt that could bring a judgment against you, something that major, that you really feel like this is a bit of a lifeline, then you are allowed to withdraw the money that will be put into your savings pot on the 1st of September. And that is 10% of the current value of your retirement fund, capped at 30,000 Rand. So the absolute most that will be sitting in the savings pot on the 1st of September will be 30,000 Rand. It will be taxable. It will be added to your taxable income and it will be taxed. So you're not going to get out 30,000. You're going to get out a lot less than that, maybe 22,000 or something like that after you've paid tax, depending on your tax rate. So people need to be very aware of how much there is, that it's not going to solve all their problems. But if that's is going to help them survive due to a really big debt issue, then obviously, people can consider it. But I'm extremely concerned. I heard somebody this week telling me she was going to draw the money to finish off her kitchen. Now, I can't begin to tell you, forget the retirement implications, the tax implications. You are literally putting money in SARS's pocket. Don't do it. Find other ways to finish off your kitchen.
Well, the question is how. They're going to probably come to you and tell us, give us advice how we can do so. What about the other factor, which again, going back to your point about an absolute urgency. Now, you're saying if you withdraw the 1/3, the capped at 30%, because there's a need, just understand that in terms of the overall growth of that pension, it also diminishes that, right? So in an emergency, and just forgive my naivety on this one, can you not withdraw it, but counter that by taking out a loan against that? And I'm just thinking, as I talk to you, it's probably a loan at a higher interest rate, right? I mean, does that make any sense to you?
Yes, I actually had that question, and it's something I need to clarify. Can you use this as collateral now? Because you can draw it. Can it be used as collateral? And that is something that lenders, and I'm actually not sure what the law would say to that. I don't think you can generally use your pension funds as collateral unless it is part of a structured debt, like a pension-backed home loans. Those are proper agreements that banks have with employers. But I'm not sure if you can go along and actually say to people, well, I've got this pension that I can draw out in a year's time. Because remember, a third accumulates every year. So, if 1,000 Rand a month's going into your savings pot at the end of the year, there's 12,000. The question is, can you use that as collateral against a loan? And I'm actually not sure how the law stands on that.
Well, I'll tell you what, if you know, at the very least, maybe tweet it out. Just tweet to me, tag me, Ashraf Garda, and SFM Radio. I'll gladly share that. I think the audience would love to know. Just lastly, in terms of that 4-part series that you put together, where can we find it?
So it's on my website, mayaonmoney.co.za. And I should just note that was specifically done for government employee members because they have a slightly different way of calculating pensions, but it's all still very, very relevant, and it does explain to people the 2-pot, actually 3-pot system, because there's actually 3 pots in this, just to confuse everyone.
Okay, well, let's not be further confused as we get to the weekend, right? Maya Fisher-French, appreciate your time. Thanks so much for that. Maya is the author of Money Questions, so you can certainly follow her, as she said. Just Google her as well. If you didn't get all the information, just check her out. Right, Felicia Mabusa Sottle comes up after 5 as we reflect while we have a fireside chat together for the next hour. Let's get the news now. It's 5 o'clock with Greg Host.
Thank you, Ashraf. SABC gives an update on its finances and concern over paramilitary forces in Libya. Good evening. The SABC board chairperson Katara Makumba says the SABC is on a positive trajectory. In the financial year 2022-23, the public broadcaster reported a net loss of 1.3 billion rand, 949 million rand more than the previous financial year. The SABC is expected to table its financials in Parliament next month. Speaking to SABC News following the public broadcaster's AGM today, the board chairperson says the entity has significantly reduced its net loss.
One can say with confidence that we have good news, both on the side of performance. Performance has significantly improved. We are not where we are supposed to be and where we would like to be, but we are happy with the progress that we have made. Also, in terms of the losses, we have significantly improved those losses, but a lot more still needs to be done.
The Deputy Minister of Electricity and Energy, Samantha Graham, says there's a positive outlook in terms of electricity provision. She was speaking during a meeting of Parliament's Portfolio Committee with her ministry and the Department of Mineral Resources. She provided an update on the Integrated Energy Plan and the Integrated Resource Plan. The plans have gone through the process of public consultation and will be taken back to Cabinet with any necessary changes. Graham says the country's energy system has been radically transformed.
On a very positive note, on Saturday we will have had 150 days of no load shedding. So that's quite an achievement when you think that this IRP was developed in the midst of the worst load shedding that we've had ever. So it certainly will have changed a lot of the assumptions that are going into it.
Meanwhile, the Department of Mineral Resources says the interventions in the Integrated Resource Plan are already bearing fruit. Sinwaba Damba, an energy planning specialist at the department, says the first intervention was to stabilize power plants.
The efforts to intensify and improve Eskom plant performance was intervention 1, because that would be the easiest thing to do. Okay, and we've seen now how this has borne fruits. We are more than 100+ days without load shedding. This is exactly what has happened. Right? It means the NECOM and all government plans to turn Eskom plant performance around have borne fruits, and we hope that it will continue being like that going forward.
One of the accused in the murder trial of a German tourist, Marshall Mamba, has taken the witness stand in the Mpumalanga High Court, claiming he was assaulted by police. He's one of 3 accused facing the murder charge of Jorg Schnar, who was shot and killed on the road to the Kruger National Park in 2022. Mamba says he was assaulted and tortured by the police, forcing him to point out the crime scene. He told the court that he knew nothing about the murder of the tourist. Mamba and his 2 co-accused are facing murder, attempted murder and robbery charges. The UN has expressed concern about reports of paramilitary forces mobilizing in the capital of Libya, Tripoli. The deputy head of the UN mission to Libya says the military and political situation has rapidly worsened over the past 2 months. The latest instability has been triggered by attempts by various factions to remove the head of the central bank. The top story, the SABC board chairperson says the SABC is on a positive trajectory. That's SAFM News. I'm Greg Hoos.
In sports this hour, Lewis Hamilton reiterates F1 return to Africa, and Orlando Pirates all set for CAF showdown. More details at 5:30.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, Bays Nordia Drive in Northcliffe is slow moving between Judges Avenue and Alice Street. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road, and the N1 northbound in Pretoria slow moving towards Stormfall Road exit. In KZN, on the N3 westbound, an earlier crash before the M13 Paradise Valley interchange has been cleared. The N2 northbound is queuing towards Umdloti exit. The N2 southbound is queuing towards the M25 Commercial Highway, and the R102 southbound slow moving near Old North Coast Road. In the Eastern Cape, on the R61, a road collapse incident reported between Tata and Port St. John's with stop-go controls at 2 locations, and trucks are prohibited. The N2 in Butterworth has a truck crash reported opposite Walter Sisulu University, so expect further delays. In Cape Town, the M5 Prince George Drive in Retreat has protesting reported at Joe Marks Boulevard. The road's closed off. You're asked to expect delays and diversions through the area. The N2 outbound is slow moving towards Bunga Avenue. The N1 outbound is slow moving towards the M5 Kuburg interchange, and the N7 Jakes Hadville Drive southbound is slow moving at Voortrekker Road. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
SAFM is celebrating its 88th birthday, and what better way to celebrate than with you, our loyal listener. We will be giving away 8,800 to 10 lucky listeners during the month of August. To stand a chance of winning, stay tuned to SAFM and SMS the keyword SAFM88 followed by your name to 41391 and listen to the station throughout the day, where you could be selected as a winner. SMSs are charged at R1.50 per SMS. Free SMSs and SMS bundles do not apply.
Happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday, happy birthday.
The SAFM University Debate Challenge is back. Join us for the 1-hour debate on This Week Today with Oliver Dixon from 6 to 7 p.m. on Friday, the 30th of August 2024 at the SABC in Bloemfontein. The University of the Free State will take on the Central University of Technology in what promises to be a nail-biting debate. The SAFM University Debate Challenge is an independent, non-partisan progressive initiative seeking to develop confident communicators, critical thinkers, and empowered global citizens. If you want to attend the debate, you can email info@safm.co.za. SAFM, leading the conversations that move us. The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda on SAFM. You're listening to the National Pulse, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m.
Right, so since I've come back hosting a show on SFM, we said, hold on, we need to do a fireside chat, and we had to stop during the election time. But since the elections, we're certainly going full swing with this fireside chat every Friday, and I can tell you now in the last few weeks we've had some stellar guests. Lorenzo Davids we've had Dr. Mampela Rampele, and last week we had Dr. Alan Busak, and today it's Felicia Mabusa Suttle. So once again, it seems like I chat to you like at least every once a year, somewhere on some platform or the other. Felicia, welcome to the show, and you're part of this fireside chat for the next hour up to 6 o'clock.
Wow, I cannot believe we're talking, and I am so excited. But my God, what tough acts to follow! Busak, Rampela. Oh my gosh! Let me see if I can get myself together now in my life of preferment. I'll tell you what preferment means later on. But first, South Africa, I miss you, and hello, I love you. And happy Women's Month. I can hear that song, Watinta Bafazi, Watinti Mbogoto. Yeah, I mean, I can hear it in my head as I'm saying this. I am really homesick, Ashraf. I'm homesick.
Well, when last were you here? I mean, if you're that homesick, you need to come home soon.
I know. Can you believe it? I think the last time I was at Dr. Maponya's funeral, which was 2020, mid-January. So I've not been home. Yeah, I'm longing to be home, and I should definitely make my way there, because my body's in America, but my heart is in South Africa.
And it's interesting you say that. Just about every few months we see someone posting a picture, tweeting out to say they bumped into you or you bumped into them, and you've identified them as South African, and you reach out to them, right? Tell me about that. I mean,
In fact, I have a young girl who just called me, who I talked to yesterday, and I said, I'll take you out to lunch, and her name is Lorna Maseko, and she wanted me to do something for an event that she's going to be doing here, but sadly I'm going to be in Europe. Just as she arrives, I'll be going to Europe, so I cannot do the event. But that tells you, not a day goes past without me literally encouraging people to go to South Africa. I found it to be my second passion.
What's your first passion?
My first passion is family.
And making us all feel part of your family, because in a strange way, I mean, as I've said, we sometimes chat on WhatsApp, sometimes live on a tele chat, sometimes like this, but every time when your name comes up, there's a sense of just a wonderful emotional connection, not just me with you, but I think you with everybody. It is a remarkable gift. It really is.
I mean, as I said earlier, I just love South Africa. There is something in that country that you cannot take out of anyone. Even those who decide I've emigrated, I see them here and they are still in love with their country. But guess who's coming? Nando's is coming to Atlanta. Nando's.
Oh, really? I mean, you sound like you're doing a voiceover for them, like, come to Nando's in Atlanta for the best chicken.
I'm ready. I'm ready for that chicken peri peri.
Oh my goodness! What is the one? I mean, it's interesting you bring up Nando's, but and I don't mean emotional things like family, but what's the one physical thing that you miss the most about South Africa? Something you touch and something you eat.
There is a music. If there's something called a music that you hear in the voices, in the sound, sights and sounds of South Africa, there is a heart in that country where the ordinary, I know we used it as a slogan on my show, where ordinary people just make you feel extraordinary. There is, I mean, I don't even know how to explain it. It is exhibited better by the people of South Africa. The smile in their face, in spite of the agony that we're experiencing. That is what I'm talking about.
Now, you mentioned Lorna Maseko. In fact, I've worked with Lorna as part of SABC TV, and I think she then hosted a show. She was part of Top Billing, and I think did another show, if I'm not mistaken, right? And other things. But so that would be someone who's reached out to you. Then you're getting the converse, where I understand, and this happens too, where on your own you're walking the streets of Atlanta or anywhere else in the USA, and you either recognize a person or they recognize you, or you see a bag with a South African flag. What sort of trigger happens when it's someone who doesn't come up to you, but you come up to them? Because you do that, right?
I honestly do. In fact, one time, I'm going to use one example. We were driving to go for dinner, and I saw this car with a South African flag behind it. And I said, follow that car, follow it. I mean, there was so much traffic. My poor husband, if he did not have an accident that day, he'll never have an accident. And I just said, push your way through, overtake that other one. Isn't such a word, overtake? But anyway, that makes me feel homesick when I say that. And we ultimately got to it, and I got a picture of it. And the young lady's name was Miriam. And it said South African chic. From there, I traced it down, and today we always have lunches together. I'll invite her to things, but it's the nostalgia that you see. There was another young man whose parents apparently have a biltong store here, but I just saw the flag, but he was sitting on his car, and he was sitting in the car tweeting. I possibly might not have done the right thing. I knocked on his window, but the way he jumped and screamed, and I realized that he said to me later on, oh my gosh, I guess it's still in me, the fear. You don't quite know. So there are those things that also just bring back those memories. My husband says I was dreaming the last time calling on my mother. And my daughter said, no, when you call on your mother, Mom, it's not right. Something is happening. You have to see a therapist. I said, no, mothers hold a special place in your heart. And if you can still dream about your late mother, it means the values that she taught you still live within you. For me, those values are Ubuntu, that it is about who I am. It's about integrity. It's about caring for others. It's about, my mother used to say to us, in fact, it was really my grandmother who brought us up. And they used to remind us that you can have all these things, homes, houses, boats, private jets, etc. Those things can be taken away from you. But the wealth you should have is integrity, the ability to even apologize when you know you are right, that peace of mind, that loving family, that helping others. In fact, talking about helping others, I remember when I was sponsored to go to school by a gentleman called George Soros. He said, I want you to help others. And yes, I did. I started the scholarship program for South African students at my alma mater. 20 to 30 plus students went through that program. Never does a day go past without a small gesture, be it a smile to somebody that I will give, be it talk to a stranger in the grocery store. Yesterday I was at the grocery store. I talked to this one woman, and she said, I only see you sometimes helping to pay for somebody else's groceries. Not too much. I mean, it's not a basket full of groceries, but once in a while. I saw you go and take a sandwich out to a homeless guy who's sitting outside. It's a small gesture, and guess what it does? It makes the world a better place, but more importantly, it makes you feel good. Integrity matters. It is about health. Health is the most important rich you can ever have.
I agree with you. But I tell you what, part of the health is
your ability. For dance.
You go for dance. We'll talk about your dance as well in a minute. I mean, your ability to connect with people is just amazing. So even now when I've said that I'm talking to you, I mean, some of the comments we've had from Sitembiso saying, as always, Great guest indeed. I look forward to hearing this interview. I love this lady, Ashraf. And then Hassanein Abdullah says, this is a big one. I will have to tune in for this. You clearly have this amazing pulling power, and there's a couple of more, all very, very complimentary about yourself. I'll try and read them out just now. But I mean, here's the thing that I want to ask you: the fact that you have this pulling power, that no matter where you are, you know people connect with you. What do you attribute that to?
Again, I go back to my upbringing.
Okay, and the
Motuke motuka batu baba. You are who you are because somebody helped you. Because you see others see you as well. If I'm translating it correctly, banaba mutuba kauhanya kahoya tsiye, which means kids of the same mother or same parents share. I enjoy sharing the little bit I have. My sister here in Miami always says, oh, what did you give up this time? I bet you took something back to the store to send us money. But I will do that, which is funny because I did take back a pair of very expensive shoes. Those who know me know the label I'm talking about. I'm not going to give them publicity on the air.
Okay, well,
I took them back, but I was able to share with my other sisters, and it made me feel good. As we speak right now, I look after my family in my small little way. I love people, but most importantly, I adore children. And my history says it, from the 70s to date, it's always been about children.
Wow,
they make me smile, they make me laugh. Go ahead.
And people adore you. I mean, just further comments. I don't want to miss these. John Derek Green saying, "Bring it on, my favorite, Mr. Garda. I'll be all ears. I want to see if she's still as elegant as ever." I have no doubt about that part. We'll ask you about your elegance just now. Sibuyile saying, "Wow, can't wait." In Swaki saying, "Can't wait to hear Felicia." And there's more. Another one, Tideka saying, "Looking forward to the show." And there's a whole lot more. Let's. Okay, I want to ask you about your elegance right after this.
Get your payments done with the utmost security and convenience when you purchase a TV license now. With our new secure payment systems with a one-time PIN, OTP feature, and the choice of receiving your OTP via SMS or email, you can ensure prompt and secure payments. The additional use of capture will protect you against spam and automated data attractions. With TV licenses, you can enjoy watching all your favorite shows or movies that matter to you. Get yours today. Visit www.tvlic.co.za.
We can do this. It's been a long time coming. This deserves to grow. It's a great business. If they don't like it, someone else will. And fund me so I can expand. Maybe I can offer them shares. I need to retain equity for staff. It's going to be good for recruitment. Yeah.
Possible begins with that one great idea. When Telkom enables entrepreneurs to make their ingenuity a reality, we grow local economies. Telkom. Possible begins here.
18 teams are back on the hunting ground. No one wants a loss or a draw. They are all searching for maximum points in every encounter. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Do not miss out on the 2024-2025 Bundesliga season. Catch the action live on Saturdays at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
The National Pulse with Ashraf Garda. Weekdays, 3 to 6 p.m.
So the Fireside Chat, the Friday Fireside Chat today is with Felicia Mabuza-Suttle. Tell you what, I've got another fabulous guest next week, and only when Temba gives me the go-ahead, I'll mention it. If he does, I'll tell you. Otherwise, I'll keep it on hold for now. So let's talk. I mean, yeah, we introduce you formally as Felicia Mabuza-Suttle, but I mean, Felicia, everybody just calls you Felicia, and it's a wonderful term of endearment, right? But let's then talk about this part, that point that one of the listeners spoke about, your do you still have the sense of elegance? You do, don't you? I know that.
Well, thank you for that. But they also say bye, Felicia. But let me tell you what I do. When I walk into a place and introduce myself, I'll say, my name is Felicia, and you can say bye, Felicia, when I leave. And everybody laughs. It breaks the ice, and everybody starts being very friendly. But talk about elegance. Let me thank my mother for that. She was the epitome of class, the way she dressed, the way she looked, and she always told us, look good whenever you leave the home. And I do believe that you have to dress the way you want to be addressed. I know situations at airports or on the flight where I'm even upgraded because of the way I look. Of all places as well, it was a Danish airline, and my daughter said, they are so stiff, Mom, they will not even talk. But when I walked onto that plane, there was a black girl in business class. She looked at me, she said, black magic has arrived. And then she said to me, these people are they're so stiff. I was like, don't worry, they'll be fine by the time we leave this plane. By the time I left the plane, we had taken pictures with the flight attendants. The pilot even came out, the chef even came out, etc. It's all about making people feel good themselves. Masaki Kami will tell you, my slogan to her and other young girls is head up, chin up, lipstick on, shoulders back, stomach in, and walk it. Kamala Harris literally exudes that. And I'm happy yesterday as I was watching her presentation that she decided to look business. It was all about business. Yes, Hillary wore the cream white suit, etc. And I prayed Kamala did not, because I thought it might jinx her. Still have my fingers crossed. Yeah. But I do believe that John T. Malloy, there was a guy who in the 80s used to teach about dress for success. And I don't know if he said this, but this was the model. When they say someone is coming to address you, they don't even tell you if it's a woman or man. What do you expect as that person comes out? What do you see first? Like it or not, you see race, number one. Number two, you see gender. Number three, you see age. Number four, you see appearance. Number five, you see height. Number six, you see weight. Number seven, you see poise. How are they standing, how they walked, etc. Number eight, then you see handshake. Only at the end of that do you hear the voice. So this is just what perception is all about. And I'm not saying we should always dress for others. Dress for yourself. I wake up in the morning. My husband cannot get over this. I'll take my shower and then I will put my face on before I even go to the kitchen. I will not go out to the mailbox without looking presentable.
Oh my goodness, my wife
no
would
night down, no.
I must tell you, my wife, Jamila, you've met. I mean, she would probably say, well, that's her way of doing things, right? Let me move on to other things. We spoke about dancing earlier on, and I want to just pick up this.
Hello, Ashraf and the team, and also Felicia. It's Dee in Velcom. I'm originally from Dube in Soweto, and I remember also Felicia as someone who was teaching dance at the Dube YWCA when I was in primary school. I knew cha-cha-cha because of her. I'm really proud of how her life has risen, and to be associated in terms of where one comes from, to have such people as she is right at the top of it puts our township on the map, just like many others. in different ways, in different fields. Proud of you, my lady. Take care.
Well, there you are. Another beautiful.
Now you're making me cry, You're making me cry because it brought back memories of what I always say, that if you have a purpose and passion, profits will follow. And it was not done for profits. It was done out of wanting to make a difference in the 70s, where our lives were in danger, young people's lives were in danger. The apartheid regime was out there, and young people had needed a place to just go and find some solace. And yes, I started the dance school based on Jeff Barker, Steve Biko's message of conscientize the young people, the youth. And that is why, to me, you guys never danced to. I was dancing with my loved one at the Tennessee Walls, but you were dancing to songs that were conscientizing you. To be young, gifted, and black. Those are the songs. Say it loud, I'm black and I'm proud. Those are the songs. Reach out and touch somebody's hand. Make this world a better place if you can. There was another song, Wake Up Everybody, No More Sleeping in Bed. And we even used that as a signal tune. And I did not know about having rights to a signal tune. I just used the song.
You just did it, yeah. So
I just did it, yeah.
Well, that's so beautiful. Now, you use the word preferment. So we're almost on to news time. What is preferment? You're in preferment, yeah?
I am not on retirement. I do only what I prefer to do, and I call it preferment. And what my preferment entails, for example, is going to, I don't go to gym, but I go to physical therapy. I've asked for physical therapy because they work me better than the gym instructor. I go for dancing. I still am dancing my walls, etc. I don't like the music, but I'm dancing to the music that they have at the dance school. I travel a lot, and when I travel, I make sure I always interview women over 60 to talk to young people about what they have gone through in the corporate world, in the political sphere, socially and otherwise. Just lessons of love from women. I believe in passing on the baton, for example, and that is why I talk to these women. I learned from women like Marina Maponya, Winnie Mandela, Miriam Makeba, Ellen Kuzwayo, my grandmother, Mary Hall, Dr. Klumer's wife. So those are the women I learned from. Abroad, obviously, Barbara Walters, may her soul rest in peace, Oprah, and but the person who really got me into thinking about talk show is a man called Phil Donahue, who recently passed away.
I want to ask you about that. Just pause for the moment. I want to maybe just talk about that and other things that you are doing with yourself in your preferment. We'll do that right after the news, which is news headlines, which is right now. Yes, Greg.
Quick look at the headlines. The SABC board chairperson says the SABC is on a positive course. One of the accused in the murder trial of a German tourist has taken the witness stand in Mpumalanga High Court, claiming he was assaulted by police. And Ukraine's president and India's prime minister have embraced each other on the first visit by an Indian leader to Ukraine. Full update at 6 o'clock.
SAFM, guiding you through the rush hour traffic.
Good afternoon. Starting off in Gauteng, the M1 southbound in central Johannesburg, slow moving towards Crown Interchange. The N3 northbound in Bedfordview is slow moving on the link to the N12 east at Giluli's Interchange. There is no Deer Drive eastbound in Cresta, slow moving towards Judges Avenue. The N1 northbound in Midrand is slow moving towards Samrand Road, and Solomon Mhlangu Drive northbound in Pretoria has a crash reported at Bronkhorstspruit Road. In KZN, the N3 eastbound queuing at Marion Hill Toll Plaza. The N2 southbound is queuing towards the M25 Commercial Highway. The R102 southbound is slow moving near Old North Coast Road, and Umhlanga Rocks Drive southbound is slow moving between Sunningdale and Glen Hills. In the Eastern Cape, the R61 has a road collapse incident reported between Mthatha and Port St. John's with stop-go controls at 2 locations. Trucks are prohibited, and the N2 in Butterworth has a truck crash reported opposite Walter Sisulu University. In Cape Town, the N2 Nelson Mandela Boulevard outbound queuing towards Hospital Bend. The N7 Jakes Harville Drive southbound slow moving at Voortrekker Road. The N1 outbound is queuing towards Okavango Road exit. Stellenbosch Arterial Road in Kells River is slow moving at Nooiensfontein Road, and Viking Way eastbound in Epping queuing towards the N7 Jakes Harville Drive. With your traffic update, I'm Irma G.
This is SAFM Sports with Tuming Khapele.
What are we talking about, Tumi?
We're starting off with motorsport. 7-time Formula One champion Lewis Hamilton has thrown his support behind Rwanda and South Africa as strong contenders to host a Formula One race in Africa. Now, Africa has not hosted a Grand Prix since 1993 in South Africa, and Hamilton believes that it doesn't make sense to adding races in other locations and continue to ignore Africa. F1 Chief Executive Stefano Domenicali said that this month that Rwanda wanted to host a race at a permanent circuit yet to be built, and there would be further discussions in terms of that circuit in September. But looking at South Africa, financial issues have been a major obstacle, and currently it costs around 355 million rand to R1 billion to host a race at a circuit. In football, Orlando Pirates continue with their CAF Champions League campaign today when they host CS Disciples at Orlando Stadium tonight. Anyone for the Sea Robbers will seal their progress to the second preliminary round of the Continental Club competition. The preliminary stages of the CAF Inter-Club competitions are not as easy as many assume, and the elimination of Pirates by Jwaneng Galaxy of Botswana last season attests to that. And coach Jose Rivero says that Disciples is not a team that should be looked down upon.
I wish, but not tomorrow. Each and every game, it's us. It's about us. It's about find our rhythm as soon as possible in the game. Have a good beginning. Obviously, it's gonna be key. I can tell you a pile of typical sentences in this type of scenarios, but the truth is that we need to play close to our best performance one more time is what we are looking for. Having a good beginning in every game is going to be a key. Respecting the opponent, because even though we dominate, we have a terrible amount of chances to score there. It was strange that the game finished 0-0.
Meanwhile, Pirates captain Innocent Maila says that it's a little bit unfair to compare the current group of players to the team that went all the way to the CAF Confederations Cup final 2 years ago. He says this current group of players want to write their own history.
The last time we played the final that you were speaking about, most of those players are no longer here now with us. So I think regarding this competition, it's a new group, new experiences for most of us. For most of the players, so it's an opportunity for us to grow within the competition and approach the competition with a lot of humility. But yeah, we're looking forward to compete with the best in the continent and test ourselves. That is where the club deserves to be. That is where we want to be as players. Very ambitious and be in that space for as long as possible.
Kickoff is at 7:30. Elsewhere, Manchester City have announced the return of Ilkay Gundogan from Barcelona. Gundogan says that he returned to the best club in the world after re-signing for City. The 33-year-old's return is on time after the departure of Julian Alvarez to Atletico Madrid, and here's Man City manager Pep Guardiola.
Of course, he's not a teenager anymore, but the reason why we decided the chance to do it is for the level he played last season. So his season last season was not, playing the level that we expect he's going to deliver, maybe you have to think about it. But even the Euros, playing with national team with Nagelsmann, played really, really good as well. So that's why, and he knows what we're going to do. He doesn't need adapt. He knows the city, he knows the club, the mates, and the way we want to play. So we'll be immediately, settle. I guess good, and that's why we could do it, and we did.
In cricket, Proteas white ball coach Rob Walter is backing his bowlers to do the job when they take on the West Indies in their 3-match T20 series, which gets underway tonight at 9 p.m. It's the second T20 series for the Proteas in the West Indies in 3 months after they battled it out against the host in a 3-game series before the T20 World Cup got underway back in May. In that series, the Proteas' main struggle was taking early wickets, which allowed the Windies to amass big totals, which they defended, but Walter believes that they have more than enough power to curb that this time. And then finally, the Comrades Marathon Association have confirmed that 4 board members have resigned. In a statement, the CMA said that Chairperson Ngobo, Bernard Basin and Nduli resigned with immediate effect. Jeff Minnar has been appointed as interim chairperson, with Peter Proctor, who will serve as an interim vice chairperson. Now, these resignations come after one of the board members was banned for life, and also allegations of racism and vote rigging, which led to the race director Anne Ashworth stepping down in June. On that note, it is a wrap from my side. Tell
you what, I should have spoken to you, but I'm not going to, only because we're going to give Felicia Mabusa subtle prominence over you.
Absolutely love her, and she deserves it.
Well, there you are. All right, more sport from you on Monday, but have a fabulous weekend, and hoping Pirates win as well. All right, we know that.
Reigning champions, the Citizens fully get it that early wins in the league serves you right when pressure kicks in.
On it goes to Foden, 2-0, the master marksman, Phil Foden, you absolute beauty.
However, the Tractor Boys believe they have what it takes to prevail in the Big Boys League.
Burns again, another opportunity, it
This is the Premier League. Catch the exciting battle between Manchester City FC and Ipswich Town FC on Saturday 24 August at 3 p.m. Live on SABC3 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. #We love it here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
Get ready for a magical night filled with hope and positivity at the Night of Hope event, 25th August, 6 p.m. to 8 p.m. live. Join Lotus FM Pastor Niven Lauman for a special 2-hour broadcast of the Gospel Hour live at one of Durban's most prestigious venues, the Durban Christian Center Dome. This will be a historic reach, calling the greater Durban community to come together for a night of prayer and embrace, together with SABC to present live from the venue to a greater South African audience. Tickets are free. Secure your spot by booking online through Cricket today. Don't miss out on this unforgettable, historic night for South Africa. See you there.
Economic news on SAFM. Facts and figures you can count on.
Right, let's get to the SFM market update with Jimmy Moyaha, as always, last day of the weekend. Jimmy, what's your moving markets today? Jimmy, do I have you there?
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. What's your moving markets is moved? So what is the moving markets today?
Everything is centered around Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Yesterday, markets were eagerly anticipating his speech today at the Jackson Hole Symposium. We'd been doing a build-up to that symposium the entire week, and the Fed Chair took to the stage today. He spoke about it. Paswane touched on that. Markets have absolutely loved hearing what he's had to say. The conversation around the fact that we might actually start to see rate cuts next month, or the confirmation that September is likely to be the first round of rate cuts, sent markets into happy frenzy. If we just look at some of the performances of the markets, Asian markets were largely in the red. They obviously haven't had the chance to react as yet. They would have been closed by the time Fed Chair Powell took to the stage, but Sydney was down 0.5%, Shanghai was down 1/3%, the Nikkei in Tokyo was up about 1/3%. European markets were all in the green. They were the CAC 40 in France 0.5% in the green, the DAX in Germany 2/3%, and the FTSE almost 0.5% as well. Our markets and U.S. markets were largely in the green. U.S. markets still trading at the moment, all of them seemingly just under 1% in the green. NASDAQ 1.25% in the green. Local markets, though, absolutely loving this. There was some surprise movements on the local front, but a quick look at that. Financial stocks up 1.8%, industrials up 1%, and resources down 1.5%, but nonetheless, for all shares 0.8% in the green. The top 40 0.75% in the green. The rand strengthened almost 1.5%. It's back at 17.70. It was north of 18 rand the last time we spoke yesterday. One British pound will cost you 23.38 rand. One euro will cost you 19 rand 80. One Australian dollar will cost you 12 rand and 1 cent. The gold price is rallying as well. It's up 1.5% at $2,515. Brent crude at $77.80 a barrel. We won't go through some of the indicators because I know there's been a lot that's been moving and we might not have enough time to get through all of them, but I will say that next week promises to be a strong end to the month of August. We're looking forward to, aside from the banking holiday in the UK on Monday, we're looking forward to a robust week as markets start to digest the full extent of what has been said or what will be said at the Jackson Hole Symposium. Looks like we're going to be in for a good bumper September going into the rest of the year, but we'll come back with these and other stories next week. For now, it's been a very good close to the week and looks to be a very good close to the month.
And do you want to answer this one? I mean, we've had questions about the impact of interest rates on markets. Quick one? Quickly.
Interest rates have both a positive and a negative impact on the markets depending on what you are looking at. As interest rates are higher, stock markets will trade lower because individuals will have less disposable income, therefore they will spend less, and so those companies will make less but also risk. People have to make different decisions when interest rates are higher, and you get better returns on things like the US dollar, for example. So when interest rates start to come down, which is what we're expecting will happen, we're expecting this will inject a risk-on sentiment into the market. People will be more active in things like equity markets, and that's why we're seeing equity markets, for example, trading better now and the US dollar trading lower, because lower interest rates means your return on US dollars that you're holding in cash is going to be reduced.
Okay, that's thanks for that, and we can dwell over that throughout the weekend because that's the next time we're going to be talking, right? So Monday, have a good weekend, Jimmy.
Same to you.
Jimmy Moyar with the SFM Market Update.
X at SFM Radio and at Ashraf Garda.
Right, you can tune in to catch the rebirth of Mubango's new season of SAB on SABC2, right? Every Monday to Friday, 9 p.m. and experience the drama and excitement with new intriguing characters like Dr. Nonhlanhla Timba, played by Leleti Khumalo. And then, of course, your usual favorites. That's Azwindini, Rendani, Teboho, and Khosi. It's a renaissance of new beginnings, love, secrets, and betrayal. Remember, that's every Monday to Friday at 9 p.m. on SABC2.
Ashraf Garda on the National Pulse.
Right, chatting from now up to 6 o'clock we're having the fireside chat with Felicia Mabuza Suttle. Lots of people wanting to comment. I've probably got time for 2 calls. Okay, that's it, max. So if you want to call in, but it must be not more than 30 seconds. One or two very quick calls is what I can take. Felicia, I still have you there, right? And hope you've had your coffee while we were, because it's early morning, your time of the world, I know. There's comments. Ashraf, Felicia, we were at high school, St. Michael's. That's a long time ago, says someone.
Oh my gosh.
Well, there you are. You see, people just...
Don't date me now.
Well, there you are. Here's another... I have a woman of substance. Okay, that relates to Bonang Mohali. I'll just leave... you have a woman of substance. There, she has been my mentor with Bonang Mohale way back in the 1990s, before democracy. I'm retired now and I still dress corporately, even when going to the doctor. Yes, like Kamala. One time a doctor asked if I'm a CEO of a company, so they could help quickly and go back to a board meeting from Matari in GP, so that would be Gauteng province. Hopefully you know who that is. Here's another one. Let me just see where it is. And there's another couple of comments. Ashraf, I still listen to the Ashraf and Felicia. I listen to the conversation on Spotify. You guys made me love myself and people around me. You taught me how to respect and to be positive even to strangers. Brian Mabai from Project Glen, referring to, of course, a podcast that was done. So lots of different things. Let me then ask you, Felicia, with regard to your now, right? What are you occupying yourself with now? What's your big thing?
I told you I travel and I talk to women over 60 about the nuggets of wisdom they can give younger women. Saying that, I mean, some of the people, I just got a message from Wendy Lohabi as well, a young woman I truly revere and respect, and what she has done in the corporate world. Those are the women I want to come and talk to. Kidiboni and Moy also mentioned that she's also listening, and she teaches us about how we are chameleons as black people in the corporate world. Those are the women I would like to come and talk to and hear what they have to say to young women. You asked me about leadership, for example. Leadership is about being able to build that bridge for the next generation, paving a smoother way for the next generation. And these women have done exactly that. I watched that the relay in the Olympics, and as the first generation passes on to the next generation, leadership is not about selfishly holding on. It's about moving forward, leaving a legacy. Leadership is about putting your personal interests aside, to the side, and helping that community, your company, your country grow. It's selfless, as when you say. Yeah. So make sure that you pass it on. Leadership is about making your mark and passing it on to the next generation. I'm looking at what's happening now. People are holding on to leadership. Joe Biden, for example, did exactly that now. Unselfishly passed on the baton to Kamala. And I can tell you right now, something is happening. Hope.
Do you like her? You like Kamala? You do?
I love Shirley Chisholm, who said that the next generation there must be a woman, and yes, I do. I love any woman with the guts to come forward and take her position in life and take that mental and start running that race.
What can you see from where you are now? What can you see about the developments in South Africa from a distance that you'd like to tell us? I mean, you see there are changes, lots of things happening. And I put it to you, what is it that you see that you'd like to just rebound off me?
I'm not really quite well in tune with the politics at home, and I always say I never criticize what I am not involved in and that I cannot help make a difference in. So as far as home, I don't quite have a comment, but if I'm there, I will definitely be able to make a better judgment. So I don't even know what to ask you, really.
All right.
Normally I'm on the other side of the mic. I love to ask those questions, but this time I'm on the other side, so I don't quite know what to ask.
I certainly know that, and I must say, you've been consistent, and I made the point even off air with Tumi, who's the sports anchor here, to say, you've also been a great supporter of the Champion South Africa project that, as you know, I drive. So your commitment to South Africa and South Africans in ways that we don't always measure, I think is actually immeasurable. That means it's there, even if we don't see it, and I certainly really appreciate that. And I know in general from people, you have this magnetism that gets us to think bigger than we really are. But I'll get you to respond to that right after this.
Feel Good Fridays just got even better with a brand new Espresso newsletter, the Feel Good Fix. Delivered to your inbox every Friday, it is your weekly dose of joy, entertainment, and local flair. Subscribe now at expressoshow.com and never miss a moment.
From heartwarming stories to tasty recipes, it's all there waiting for you. And remember to tune in to the Espresso Morning Show weekdays from 6 to 9 a.m. on S3, and let's start your day right and channel your inner feel good.
Here he comes. Hello, guys. You're so dramatic. Hey, Bob, it's not me. It's the extra styling kit, the leather seats with the red finish. It's the tow bar, all coming standard with my red Isuzu badge. Wow, now that is extra.
Why be standard when you can get the all-new Isuzu D-Max X Rider from just 8,742 Rand. Prime less 3.5%, 0% deposit, 40% balloon, and 72 months to pay. Get yours today. Finance is subject to approval. Isuzu Finance, a product of Westbank, a division of First Rand Bank Limited, an authorized financial services and registered credit provider.
Borussia Dortmund understands the delight that comes with triumphing the opening clash of the league race. But Eintracht Frankfurt are not about dropping points this early. They want to complete their visit to Signal Iduna Park with 3 incredible points. This is the Bundesliga. Football as it's meant to be. Catch the hot contest between Borussia Dortmund and Eintracht Frankfurt on Saturday, 24 August at 6:30 p.m. Live on SABC Sport on DTT Channel 4 and at your fingertips on SABC Plus. Also available on sabcsport.com. Hashtag We Love It Here. Proudly brought to you by SABC Sport.
For the love of the game.
You are listening to the National Pulse with Ashraf Garda.
Chatting to Felicia Mabusa Suttle as part of the Friday Fireside Chat we do every Friday from 5 to 6 p.m. Felicia, here's a voice note I'm going to play.
Hi to Ashraf and to Felicia Mabusa Suttle. It's Scully. Man, it's so honored to tell you hello. God bless you wherever you are, and you're welcome to South Africa anytime. We need you. Bring back a lot of memories on the TV talk show host. Thank you. Lots of memories.
Felicia, is there a young South African currently in the country that you'd like to name drop and say, please look out for this person?
There are so many who have taken up this baton and are running. I think I already name dropped one.
Marsha, you were with her. I saw the pictures of you and Marsha.
Claire, Claire. I mean, the bright, bold, brave, beautiful black Claire. There's so many of them. Anele is doing an amazing job. I miss her son so much. He calls me Glamour. I mean, the list goes on and on, men and women, by the way. So I really am indebted to them for saying, stand on your shoulders.
Absolutely.
And they are making a difference. But I also saw someone send me a message or put on Twitter. Teboho asked, what is my affiliation with Ndlovu Choir?
Yeah.
I just love them. The harmony, the humility, the music they bring to the world and make the world realize that this is South Africa. When they get on that stage, I went to see them in Berlin. I see them in the US. When they were on America's Got Talent, I did not know these children. I did not even know Ralph. And I got on that plane, went straight to LA to just go and meet them as a South African mother. And then when Ralph told me that I was a young boy at Drakensberg Boys Choir when you came to sing on your show, and that's how I first saw you and met you. And today to see him doing the same, that's what warms my heart up.
Well, I'm glad. Now, you've also written...
You're making me tear up now.
Well, maybe that's the plan. You've also written a fabulous book, which I've got the privilege of having at home, and you know that. And you've signed it, so I really, really appreciate that. Just remind us, what is the name of that book, and is there another book coming?
There are two books that I wrote. The first one is Dare to Dream, and that's a book about the little girl growing up in Soweto, giving hope to that little girl or boy for that matter, growing up in Soweto, standing at that gate, dreaming about what can I be when I grow up, or what will I be when I grow up? Keeping hope alive. And that's really the journey, my journey from Soweto to accomplishing what I wanted as a little girl, being on the billboard one day, watching the Marina Maponyas, etc., and then ultimately ending up in college in the United States and walking in Johnson Hall, this huge building, this little girl from Soweto in a predominantly white school, thinking that I will be friends with the black kids in America, but no, they rejected Africa because they were given the wrong impression about Africa.
So that's
but
the one,
still managing to unite them in the cafeteria. The second book is really a book called Living Your Dream. I am living my dream right now. I'm doing what my mother told me to do, to have peace of mind, to walk away from negative relationships that just drain you. Life is too short. Helping others. It's about health. That's really what that book is. Right now, I'm writing a book, obviously, about how women have paved my way and how, as women, never, ever, never, ever condemn another woman. That is why you asked me about Kamala Harris. Kamala Harris for the people, period.
Okay. When you have your book launch of that third book, I will self-invite myself. Okay, no question about that. Is there another book you'd like to recommend? We've got a minute to go. Somebody else's book that you think we must read?
I'm into inspirational books. I'm reading Michelle Obama's book, The Light We Carry, because we all have a light we carry. And a little bit of Whoopi's book, because I like to laugh. Bits and pieces. My mother, my brother, and me. Those are the books I'm reading light-hearted books, really, that just keep my spirits up.
So I'm
going
to end with this, as we got a minute to go, which is, you clearly have this amazing ability to make people feel better about themselves. I mean, that's your natural. It is your natural disposition. I mean, that's what I see. Okay, so there are many people in South Africa and around the world, because this will be a podcast you can share to the Americans too, right? Who feel less of themselves for whatever reason today. So you've got 30 seconds to help us to rethink ourselves when we think less of ourselves. How do we turn that around?
You are an individual. You are an original individual. No one in the world is better than you. You are the best of God, what God made you to be. And what's my slogan on my book? No one and nothing should stop you from realizing your dream.
And that's a beautiful way to end it, because you have had your own dream world, and you know what? Through you, many South Africans, Felicia, we've also dreamt, and for that I would like to tell you a very, very big thank you.
Thank you so much, and thanks South Africa. I truly appreciate you.
Until we meet again, and hopefully in South Africa soon. Felicia Mabuza-Suttle.
Definitely.
Fireside Chat. What a privilege, what a pleasure, what a privilege. We'll have the podcast, listen to it, share it, get your friends to listen to it and comment about it. Felicia Mabuza-Suttle, thank you. Let's get the news now. It's 6 o'clock. Here's Greg Coase.
Thank you again, Ashraf. SABC gives an update on its finances, and India's Modi arrives in Ukraine. Good evening. The SABC board chairperson, Katura Makumba, says the SABC is on a positive course. In the financial year 2022-23, the public broadcaster reported a net loss of 1.3 billion rand, 900